It's Friday. You made it. 6 a.m. in the Mom City. Friday, February 16th.
Yeah, there were moments this week I wasn't sure.
Bro,
we're going to make it to Friday.
I drove through freezing fog today.
Wait, what exactly is freezing fog?
Did you have that?
Well, I had fog, but
So
no
as I was
freezy
driving
stuff.
into the studio this morning, it like froze on my windshield.
No.
Freezing fog.
That doesn't seem right. How is that possible?
Is this crazy man-made fog? Is this part of the engineering that's taking place out there?
Yes, it's part of the fog we're supposed to breathe in, and then it gives us the new COVID vaccine, and they're able to track us. Yes.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, good morning to you all. We've got a whole lot to cover in an absolutely jam-packed show. Chris Murray will join us at the 7 o'clock hour to discuss Fani Willis's absolutely legendary, going to be taught in law schools for 20 years from now, how to tank your case. Discussion on what happened yesterday with her. Unbelievable. I don't think Fox went to a commercial for about 6 hours as they covered Fani Willis.
We were talking about that, and I'm just watching them burn money. And that, I mean, you're like, wow, this is fascinating to do this. I'm like, do you understand how much money they're giving up at this point? And it's really funny that we're looking at it that different way. Yeah.
George Brauchler will be joining us in the 8 o'clock hour to discuss how he plans to, as a district attorney, pay his lovers in cash as well and take secret trips to faraway places.
I'm a little hard. I mean, I'm hurt that, he and I couldn't have struck up some sort of romantic relationship, because I could use a side sugar daddy. I'm just saying that,
6 months of cash in a room, 6 months of cash. Holy cow. So if you missed all that yesterday, Fani Willis was basically deposed by Trump's lawyers, and it'll fascinating conversation. We'll get into all of it in the 7 and 8 o'clock hour. And then Jimmy Sengenberger previewing his final show with 710 KNUS during the 9 o'clock hour. So absolutely jam-packed. Let's go to the news with Mr. Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
All right, Jeff and Bill, get your popcorn today with Fani Willis, no doubt. 22 and mostly cloudy and highs in the low 30s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story: Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is dead. The staunch critic of President Vladimir Putin died while behind bars at the age of 47. Navalny led protests against the Kremlin for more than a decade, even daring to run against Putin. Relief is coming for Coloradans struggling to stay in their homes. The state's temporary rental assistance grant is making $30 million available for people who've fallen behind on payments and are at risk of being evicted. 3 women have died in a fiery Thursday morning crash in Fort Collins. Fort Collins police officer Brandon Barnes says the department will not rest until they get answers.
Certainly, this is a tragic incident. While our team of investigators work to find answers for the family and friends of those that were involved, we're here to support them however we can.
First responders found 3 bodies inside the car after the fire was put out. Crash investigators say the car drifted onto the shoulder and crashed into a parked pickup truck. The Larimer County Coroner's Office will release the individuals' identities later. A candlelight vigil was held last night for victims of the Kansas City Victory Rally shooting. Wednesday's mass shooting left 1 woman dead and almost 24 dozen others injured, including many children, of course. 2 teens were shooting at each other in a crowd of people, and they are in custody. A ruling in former President Trump's civil fraud trial is expected today in New York.
This is all from the DOJ. This all comes out of Washington. They're coordinated with the district attorney and the AG. The case tomorrow, which is a rigged deal, is all coordinated with the district attorney, and it's coordinated with the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, who ought to be ashamed of herself. She's campaigned for years of trying to get Trump without knowing anything about me.
James is the Democrat spearheading that one, of course, as Trump just mentioned. Then in Georgia, Fulton County DA Fani Willis will be back in court today. This comes as the court determines if she should be tossed from the former president's Georgia election case because of misconduct surrounding her and prosecutor Nathan Wade, a former boyfriend.
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head? So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth, Judge. And it is a lie. It is a lie.
All right. She was combative. And of course, we'll be talking about that all morning long. President Biden will travel to East Palestine, Ohio later today, more than a year after a train derailment spilled toxic chemicals into the community. As the new all-time leading scorer in women's college basketball, Iowa guard Caitlin Clark did it last night in a 106-89 victory over Michigan, and she has now surpassed the 3,527 points that she needed in her career. Avs lose to the Lightning. CU falls to UCLA. It's 19 in Boulder, 20 in Aurora, and 22 in Denver. Jeff and Bill just underway. TGIF. Stay tuned. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
As Blake mentioned, the breaking story this morning, Vladimir Putin's number one enemy, Alexei Navalny, dies in prison after, quote, suddenly collapsing on a walk, unquote. He was a rather young guy. Bill, why don't you think Tucker even brought up or mentioned Alexei's name in an interview with Vladimir Putin?
Because Tucker is a fan of all of his digits. He wanted to come home with all of his fingers and toes and also not have an extended vacation in Siberia.
Right.
Again, yeah, the idea, I mean, the filter for Tucker, and Tucker had to dance along a razor's edge because you're dealing with Putin, but more importantly, you had to go to Russia. He does not have to let you leave. So the balance in that conversation is tilted so heavily towards Putin, and Tucker had to know walking in, if he didn't, he was an idiot, that this was a PR campaign by Putin.
Yeah.
This was Putin saw an opportunity to tell a story to Tucker's audience, and that's what it was. So he had to be really, really careful as far as who he could push, and I would hope that he had the conversation behind the scenes with someone and said, should we talk about this? Should we not? And then saying no, rather than him just ignoring it, because it is a question that should have been asked. It is a question about, listen, you are jailing your political leaders. There are charges here in America that we have a president going after his political enemies, and have some sort of comment there. I would have loved to see him lead Putin into it about why, etc. But again, right, if I'm sitting in that chair, the number one goal for me at the end of that interview is to go home
alive.
Yes. He does not have to give me back my passport. So again, that's the issue. It's a really tough one.
There's a really weird series of videos that Tucker's been posting, and I'm a big fan of Tucker. Yeah. I've invited him to the Western Conservative Summit. He spoke at the summit in 2011. I would love for him to be back this year. In fact, he's like one of my top requests. I don't know if we'll be able to get him, but these series of kind of like pro-Russian supermarket, subway videos that he's making, it just strikes me as odd and off. And feel free to give me a call if you disagree, if you think Tucker's doing a fair job. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. But I don't get it.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. It almost kind of strikes me as like a Jane Fonda type of thing.
Ooh, I wasn't thinking that one, but that makes sense because I was shocked by seeing the video where Tucker was talking about how clean Moscow is and how it'd be amazing to have a U.S. city like this. And I went, it's because the guy in charge is a dictator, right? There are whole bunches of things people are not allowed to do on the streets or they're hurt.
North Korea does this too.
Yes.
And I've looked a lot.
Yes.
I've read a lot of books on North Korea and people who've escaped North Korea. Like their subway systems are immaculate, but you will get meat once a month.
Yes.
To eat, right?
Because they want, for them, it's the presentation, not the function. Yeah.
Yep. Right. And some of the even conservatives pushing back on Twitter on Tucker being like, a third of homes in Russia do not have running water and use outhouses.
Well, the thing for me is
if you're talking about how great the subway station is.
Yeah. The thing for me is that if this is what I would say is let's say that it's not Tucker Carlson standing in Moscow saying how wonderful the city is, how beautiful it is, how clean it is, how there are American cities that dream to be this spectacular. Let's say that we put, I don't know, LeBron James there saying the same thing. Yeah. Let's say that we put Brittany Griner there saying the same thing. Let's take a number of different people, and your example of Jane Fonda is very appropriate. Imagine that it's not Tucker saying that Moscow is so good. Imagine that it is someone else. Imagine it is Kamala Harris standing there saying, oh my gosh, Moscow is an amazingly beautiful city. What would you think? What would be your impression? You would go, you chill. Right. You are selling out. This is nothing but PR. And we have to have the same critique of Tucker. We have to, because that is crazy to give praise to the city and not understand why. But again, maybe it's because Tucker is a fan of all of his fingers. And if that's the reason
to get out of there,
yes, that he wants to be able to count to 10 on his hands when he comes home. All right, then that's fine. I give you a pass. That's okay then. I'm okay with that.
So again, breaking story today, this morning, Vladimir Putin's #1 political enemy, Alexei Navalny, dies in prison after, quote, suddenly collapsing on a walk.
Yeah, they were saying that it might be a blood clot is what's going through Russian media at this point. I'm just surprised he didn't fall out of a window because you know that because there are a lot of Putin's enemies that seem to fall out of windows, which I'm surprised. I mean, we've talked about this before. I'm super surprised that in Russia they keep building high-rise buildings with windows that open. We don't do that here, but oddly, maybe it does have to do with something. There's some sort of a rule inside of Russia because Putin says, listen, inside the buildings, you have to have some of the windows open because some of you people piss me off. Maybe that's the rule, that he just needs to have that opportunity to throw you out the building.
I mean, in light of this is the truth that this is how Vladimir Putin treats his political enemies, right? He absolutely does. And Alexei they poisoned him at one point on an airplane, right? So they literally used Soviet era poisoning agents and tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Do you really believe that he wants to bring peace to Ukraine? That like what he said on Tucker Carlson's show, that this is that he'd be fine with a peace accord, with a treaty that would be signed, and that he really wants to be peaceful.
Not in the least. And I was appreciative earlier this morning on Fox News. The Friends on the Curvy Couch brought on a former general. I forget the general's name. He's on us all the time, and I should remember it. But it was nice. He talked about all the disinformation that Russian TV is going through, and he talked about the idea of Ukraine is full of the Nazis, and we're cleaning out the Nazis. He goes, all of this BS that Russia has been running on state television in order to convince their citizens. And he was using that as a window into how he treats his political enemies and the narrative that he's telling. And so why would we ever believe the narrative that Putin is telling us? Because it falls apart at every step. So, and of course, he's not going to stop at Ukraine. He's not going to stop there. He has expressed his interest in his legacy. He wants to reassemble the USSR. That's what he wants his legacy to be. Yeah. He said that numerous times.
Right.
So the idea that he's gonna, not ignore everything after he gets to Ukraine. No. He's gonna keep going. He's going to. Czechoslovakia is gonna be nice. He wants Poland. He's got some other targets.
Well, again, breaking news: Vladimir Putin's #1 enemy, Alexei Navalny, dies in prison. I'm guessing that was not of natural causes.
No,
they probably just had enough of him.
As natural as it is what happens to you in a Russian prison. That's fairly, that's about as close as
Have you ever been to Russia?
No, I have not. I've had over the course of the years had a number of people that have come over from Russia. This is an weirdly weird path to go down. But during the 80s, my mom was principal of Rangeview High School here in town.
Oh, yeah.
And they hosted Russian students that came. And this is the 80s that they came over. And
this is prime
yes,
USSR.
It is Cold War. Oh my gosh, you godless devils, what are we doing? And to have a chance to talk with both not just the teachers, but the students. And I had many one-on-one times where we would bring some of the students over to the house and outside of the handlers and outside of, the escorts, and had some really good open conversations with the kids. And it was fascinating, really wonderful, wonderful, nice people. And of course, they're going to put the best shine they can on it. But yeah, they talked about how difficult it was in Russia at that time and the lack of freedoms. And they were surprised here in America with not just the space, but the choices and a lot of the freedoms. A lot of questions from the kids that were couched because just in case someone else was listening, but real interesting questions about what as a teenager in America I was allowed to do and different with their lives. Yeah, it was fascinating. They came over several times. So several different groups of kids.
I went to Russia for about 2 weeks in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice.
I got arrested every single day at lunch.
Really?
Every single day.
Wow. Maybe you should choose something else on the menu.
You're right. And
It's a
it had
thought.
nothing to do with that.
Oh, really?
It was me walking around.
Yeah. Tell me what we're
speaking
doing.
English.
Yeah.
Just speaking English. We'd be touring around, right?
Oh, wow.
Lunchtime. So your passports, or something wrong with your passport. Something you need to come with us.
Oh, yeah. They're checking it. Wow.
Does $20 make this go away?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. So I was literally paying the lunch money
Oh, my
to
gosh.
the Russian police every single day I was there.
Oh, gosh. And probably after the third day, they're like, hey. Hey.
Just give us the money. It's easier. I don't have to
look what we
fake
have, yeah.
arrest you.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Pavel, there's the American. Let's go have free lunch.
What was so interesting about this? So this was early 2000s. It was probably 10, 15 years removed from it was so corrupt. It was capitalism, but still with but super corrupt capitalism.
Oh, yeah. Like if it was run by Capone.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
All run by mob
exactly.
guys.
Yeah.
And they all drive around with little blue lights on their cars.
Oh, wow.
So it's supposed to be the sign you're like a political leader, right? Like an ambassador or something.
Sure. Yeah.
But no, you just mob. It's mob. It's the mob. It was totally run by the mob. It was such a weird country.
Oh, that is so weird.
Do I trust everything that our government's saying about Ukraine? No. Absolutely not. Right.
No,
60 billion. Yeah. I think there's a lot of money laundering taking place there, like Robert F. Kennedy said. But do I trust Putin and Russia after what I saw there? Yeah. No, not at all either. Yeah. So again, Vladimir Putin's number one enemy, Alexei Navalny, dies suddenly in prison over the day. So expect that to be a lot of the news.
So good news, bad news to some people in Russia. There's now a new number one opponent, for Putin to go after. So yes.
I want to go back. This was a story that broke in Colorado Peak Politics just the other day. And I think the mayor of Denver has a lot to answer for. Remember the mayor just a few days ago making this statement?
I want to thank every resident in the city who has showed up to cook a meal for someone that's arrived, who has welcomed someone into their home, who has offered them a job, who has said, we will help you find your way. You've done your part. The city will do our part. The federal government did not do their part.
So Mike Johnston, the mayor of Denver, in tears before the people of Denver with regards to the vote that took place in Congress to not provide funding for all the illegal immigrants that are coming in. So the city of Denver having to make over $100 million worth of cuts to its services, and the Denver mayor in tears, thanking those that are stepping up and backing and pushing back with all of his might against those terrible Republicans in Congress who did not provide additional funding.
Do you need a moment to compose yourself, just in case? Because I know this has got you.
Well, what I love about this is then he walks to the train to the airport and goes to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So Colorado Peaks Politics reporting that just a few days later, after that statement was made, he and his son were off to the Super Bowl and raising important questions. How much of the tax dollars were being spent by the city of Denver to deal with that. Now, the city responded and said, oh, absolutely not. We wouldn't spend tax dollars on this. But he was seen with security on his way to the airport and security picking him up on his way back. So my question to you, 710 KNUS listeners, you can give us a call at 303-696-1971. Is this a fair critique of the mayor? Was he just going out to have fun with his son and we shouldn't hold him accountable? Or, is there a little bit of a hypocrisy here? I mean, crying alligator tears in light of not receiving hundreds of millions of dollars from the federal government to deal with an illegal immigrant problem that he helped create, but then getting on an airplane and flying to the Super Bowl, which the tickets at minimum, I believe, were well over $2,000 for the cheap seats. So he's spending his money, but he seems to be a little sad that he's not getting it to help the illegal immigrant issue in the city of Denver. So I'd love to hear from you, 303-696-1971. Text message coming in. I'd like to ask Mayor Johnston how many he's opened his home to.
Oh, interesting. That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't necessarily want them in the but in the official residence. But yeah, that's an interesting question.
Why not? Why not put them in the official residence?
Yeah. The question would be is if there is an official residence, then there's got to be a secondary that he would have a private residence, and there's your opportunity. The private residence, you can say we don't put them on because of what can happen inside of an official residence, but I don't know. That's interesting.
We learned yesterday from Fani Willis, you can have a whole lot of private residence.
Yeah. And a lot of cash. I want to know about that. I'm like, wow. Okay.
That's like literally a mob boss.
Yeah.
6 months worth of cash. We'd love to hear from you.
That was crazy.
Joan from Lakewood, did he pay for the tickets with cash? They're so corrupt, guys. They're so corrupt that it's the gifts were a ticket from Brian Greasy. Okay, so he got.
Yeah, that is good. That is correct. He was gifted the tickets.
Was he gifted the tickets?
The tickets were gifted, and for me, it's did he pay for the flight himself? Did he pay for hotels himself? And that's for me. The security going to and from the airport, they have to travel with him a number of places. If they went to the Super Bowl with him, then I have a little bit more of an issue because then we've got to put him up in hotel rooms and stuff like that. If it's just to the airport and back, to me, I give it a pass because he could be doing anything and doing that. He could be going for a family funeral. He could be going back to go anywhere. He could be going to Disneyland as long as, again, he paid for it on his dime. But evidently, if he was worried about that, he should have just, again, like you said, like Fani Willis, big giant pile of cash, because evidently totally untraceable. Totally untraceable. So that may be the key.
But do you think it's the right move to make?
Oh, God, no.
When you're in the midst of a crisis, you've cut $100 million from your budget, or you're trying to.
No.
And you're literally in tears a few days before about the crisis you're in.
Yeah.
And then you're off to the Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, that is awful. That is the optics on that are awful. The only thing that is possibly worse is the former Denver mayor holding the press conference at DIA going, everybody stay home. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend. I exaggerate a little bit, but that's what he did. He told everybody to stay home, and then he jumped on a plane and went and saw his family. So come on. It's not necessarily that bad, but the optics are atrocious. And I look at it as, these are a gift from Brian Greasy. He's been a friend. Yes, it's an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. But is there something else you could do? Now, again, I know that I'm a little weird. So if it's me in that office and Brian Greasy is gifting me a pair of tickets, you know what I do? Politically, because it makes sense.
Auction them?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I give the money to the migrants that were trying to, the thing that I just cried about. That's what you do. You tell Brian, this is what I want to do. And now he gets to do a nicey thing. And he makes the money and he looks good. Yeah. And he can come out and look at me and he can doctrine him off. And how about that press opportunity of handing the tickets or the, over to, or, whatever it is to that person. You get that Publishers Clearinghouse message, where you can stand there with like the giant, novelty check. Hi. And we all take the pictures. I mean, that's the moment. He had that moment. That's what I would have done. If I was in the office, I would have told him that's the smartest thing to do. And you don't get to go to the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. Welcome to the rest of America. If it was a Denver Broncos Super Bowl, okay, I can see about getting upset. But Niners, Chiefs, again, you're the Denver mayor. You should not be the Chiefs Super Bowl. Just saying. I'm just saying. Now, there's no self-respecting Broncos fan that should have been anywhere near that stadium. Yes, we can cheer for the 49ers, but no, don't do it. So I don't understand. Again, numerous times we have seen both with Polis and in Johnston's, in my opinion, really, really bad political handlers behind the scene, not understanding the message that they are sending. Because, how much of a hero is Mike Johnston if he comes out and says, I have these tickets given to me from Brian Greasy, and we are auctioning them off for the homeless or for the migrants, whatever it is, because, and the narrative is, we have this budget crunch.
Yep.
This is a little, not going to solve it,
right?
But we all are making sacrifices.
Right.
He's making a sacrifice for the city. That's a narrative. He looks selfish. Bad narrative.
Woo! Bill's on fire this morning. There's a question from Joan. Is there a gift policy in Denver?
Ooh, yes, I think there is. Friend of the show, Frank McNulty, had brought up some gift complaints with Hickenlooper.
Yeah.
There may be some things. He would be the person that would know the most about that directly as far as what those rules are, because that's intelligent, Joan. It may have violated some of the rules, or maybe, I'm on the hook for something. Yeah, it does seem odd that you can just give them Super Bowl tickets.
Does it make you angry, or is it just kind of like a bad take? The Denver mayor's Vegas Super Bowl trip came on the heels of budget cut news.
Makes me so mad.
Let me know. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. A lot of texts coming in on that. Later in the show, 7 o'clock hour, Chris Murray will be here to talk Fani Willis, as well as George Brauchler, giving us insight into how he plans to pay his secret lovers with cash, as well as the upcoming district attorney. And then Jimmy Sengenberger, 9 o'clock hour, giving us a preview of his final show. So a whole lot to cover. Give us a call. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
found the gifting policy for the city of Denver. It ain't good.
No? So you're telling me that lowers the gifts that we have to give each other now? There's a like Secret Santa, like a $25 limit. Is that what it is?
The donation of meals, tickets to events for which admission is charged, or free or reduced price admission to events for which a fee is charged, but only under the following conditions. No more than a total of 4 meals, tickets, or free or reduced price admissions may be accepted from the same donor in any calendar year. A donation from an employee of a business or entity shall be counted as a gift from the business or entity. The individual or entity which pays for the meal, ticket, or admission shall be considered the donor for purposes of this subsection. And attendance must be reasonably related to the official or ceremonial duties of the officer, official, or employee.
Oh. So you're saying that maybe Mayor Johnston was one of the people on the roller skates in the halftime, because then it's an official duty. I'm just wondering, maybe one of the backup dancers. He could be, if it was back in the day, it'd be Left Shark with Katy Perry. Maybe it was Left Shark. Maybe that's it. Then it's official. Yeah, I'm just looking for the loopholes here. I'm trying to help you out there, Mayor. I'm fighting for you. No, not really.
So the story in Colorado Peak politics is that just days after Johnston did this,
I want to thank every resident in this city who has showed up to cook a meal for someone that's arrived, who has welcomed someone into their home, who has offered them a job, who has said, we will help you find your way. You've done your part. The city will do our part. The federal government did not do their part.
And my part, going to the Super Bowl.
Yes.
See you, losers.
Yeah, losers. I'm out. Yeah. You're like, deuces, bro. And he goes, he could have done his part. And that's the thing that's great about pointing out, that he had an opportunity. He had a sudden revenue stream that he could have taken those tickets and turned it into money that, even though, looking on the big picture, it's a small drop, but he's asking all of his departments to make a sacrifice.
Yep.
He's asking the rank and file people to make sacrifices as far as budget cuts. This involves the typical both corporate and government math. And by that, I mean, corporate and government math is, we have a job that is going to take 12 people to do. So we are now going to hire 9 people to do it and pay them like they are 6.
Yeah,
that's what we do. And that's what you're going to do, is that there's going to be people eliminating these jobs, and the people inside the government are going to have to do more, and things aren't going to work as well, reinforcing the narrative that government always doesn't work well because it's not efficient in the first place. So this is just going to make things for the rank and file people more difficult. And he could have said, here's a little sacrifice I'm making.
Yeah.
This isn't going to make a huge change, but since I'm asking all my people in all the departments to make little sacrifices, here's something that I'm going to do. But no, we had to go and watch Usher. Yeah.
Come on. It was a personal gift. Nothing official about it. Tell me you wouldn't take your kid. He did take his son.
Not to a Chiefs Super Bowl. Are you even a Broncos fan? Are you even a Broncos fan? I'm sorry. I jest, but I get it.
Mike Johnston does not care what you think, and no one is going to hold him accountable. So here's the article in Colorado Peaks Politics. Some answers are finally forthcoming as to whether Denver Mayor Johnston followed up his Friday press conference blaming migrants for looming budget cuts with a flight to Las Vegas to catch the Super Bowl. He did, and he took his son with him. The mayor's office assured the media that absolutely no tax dollars or resources were used to accommodate Johnston's trip to watch the other teams play football, but we are not so sure. Johnston's security detail was certainly being paid when they escorted the mayor through the airport and to the gate. Johnston's press secretary says the security escort was common, but assures the media that the mayor's security team didn't travel with him to Las Vegas. We're guessing the security detail also went back to pick him up on his return and escort him securely out of the airport, where hundreds of federal security officials also work. We're also guessing the security detail and Johnston didn't arrive or depart in separate vehicles, so taxpayers also picked up the transportation costs and saved Johnston from paying airport parking fees, a lot of other hassles. Sure, he's not breaking the bank, but the whole trip looks super shady when the mayor asked city workers and taxpayers to take a financial hit for the team and then flies to Vegas to catch the Super Bowl, in which our team wasn't playing. The mayor's spokesperson says the tickets were compliments of Brian Griese, former Denver Broncos quarterback, who is now an assistant coach with the San Francisco 49ers. Griese who is 48, has been friends with Johnston, 49, for about 20 years. Spokesperson said that would be after Greasy left the Broncos in 2002 to play for the Miami Dolphins, about the same time Johnston was attending Yale University in Connecticut. So yeah, that seems legit. 9 News assures us that it's okay for Johnston to cheer for San Francisco because Mike Shanahan's boy Kyle is the head coach. But
sure,
we can't
Channel
back
9.
that up.
Yeah,
There's
we
no
know about
good
Channel
reason
9. We know about you guys.
As for the ethics of Johnston accepting 2 Super Bowl tickets with a value of more than $15,000, Channel 9 also assures us it's perfectly fine. Lori Weiser, executive director of the Denver Board of Ethics, says Johnston's acceptance of the tickets, potentially worth thousands of dollars, raises no issue under city policy. According to the policy, the donation of event tickets is allowable under several conditions, including attendance, like I said, must be reasonably related to the official and ceremonial duties of the officer, official, and employee. Who knew going to Las Vegas for the Super Bowl was in the mayor's job description?
Yeah, I think on that list of things, it's I think the bottom one is, does he really, really, really want to go? But it's 3 reallys. It's not 3 reallys. He doesn't get to go. I think so.
Let's go to Dick, line 2. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning.
Morning.
I went to the Giants Denver game, Super Bowl in Pasadena in '87. Happened into a ticket from the Giants home office.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sitting 6 feet from Joe DiMaggio, Stan Musial.
Wow.
Tina Turner was behind me. The tickets at home, I can't remember. Home office tickets might not have a price on it, but if those were home office tickets, oh my gosh, the value would be, they don't sit just anywhere. We were on the 48-yard line, 28 rows up. It was unbelievable. But also, you get a chance to go to the Super Bowl, no matter where it is today at the prices. I'm not sure I could I'm not maybe wanting to cut in some slack about going out there.
Yeah, I understand. Now, Dick, I got to ask you, man, you were there, 87, Broncos, Giants. Do you still have some PTSD?
Boy, it started good, and then it went extinct.
Oh, yeah, it did. How was the walk out of the stadium afterwards? How difficult was that at times? Because I know Giants fans, and they can be a little boisterous.
Well, it really wasn't bad. Charlie Connerly, the old quarterback, was behind me. Of course, when Mr. DiMaggio and Musial, they left midway fourth quarter.
Oh,
we
no, we lost you.
Dick, we lost him.
Oh, no.
So
I was so curious. I thought I was getting into, well, I left with them, and I went partying with Joe DiMaggio, and that's why I have the tattoo. Maybe not, but I'm just guessing. There we go. Now he's back.
Oh, no. It was a very weird Super Bowl. At the end of the game, McConkey is running with a guy, and a gun falls out of the guy's sport coat. He looked like he might have been security of some kind, but that was a little weird. But other than that, there was a fight with Tina Turner's bodyguard had to clean a guy up, which was gruesome.
Oh my goodness.
Other than that, I paid $100 from a guy. He was a limo driver. And I said, well, what? All I got's $100. And he goes, here. I go, well, why don't you go? And he said, I got some pretty high-powered people that if they want to leave, I got to be at this car. Every limo in LA was at that game. So I show a guy on the way in because there was talk of fake tickets. He goes, you could get $5,000 for that right now because the New York people push the prices out of sight. I said, nah, I want to go. So I put my Denver hat on, sat down, and the blonde beside me says, who are you? You must be somebody. I said, why would you say that? She said, because these are Giant home office tickets, and you come in here with a Denver hat on.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is beautiful.
Dick,
then middle of the
I was going to say, thanks for the call. We really appreciate it. I want to get to some of these text messages here. So I'd like to know how the mayor paid for his airfare out there and if he spent the night or came back. So he is reporting that he paid for the airfare. He paid for the hotel. That was all out of his private pocket. But I think there's a real basis here for an ethics complaint if the only way you can accept gifts, and even Channel 9 acknowledges this, and they're basically, the chief defenders of everything leftist.
Yes.
Is if it's in an official capacity, like you're there for duties. Now, we deal with this because we invite all the lawmakers in Colorado to the Western Conservative Summit. And we have to explain why it's in their official capacity to be there, right? Because we put them on stage if they've received a Faith, Family, and Freedom Award, or they're attending the workshops and they're learning about policy issues.
Yeah.
So we're inviting them as that person. There's a role there. But I think that Mike Johnston may have a really serious issue here, and somebody probably should file an ethics complaint. I mean, here's another text message. What do laws mean? What's the point of this? The residents of Denver are going to see that we essentially live in a third world country, and the mayor is accepting gifts in a non-official capacity to go to the Super Bowl.
I like that non-official capacity. I think there is something there as far as the justification of why to go, because it was a gift. And I still return to the caller that we had there with Dick, that if these were 49ers home office tickets, which at this point, I believe in the conversation, it is a safe assumption because he got them from Greasy, who is an assistant coach. So you would assume that they would be 49ers home office tickets. It would be unusual if they weren't. Doesn't mean they aren't, but it just would be unusual. So for the purpose of the discussion, it is fair for us to assume they are. If Dick is right, that they are that good, you're talking first level between the 40s, that is tens of thousands of dollars. And that changes the conversation completely for me, because if you can auction off those tickets and you can turn that into 30, 40, 50 grand, that is a PR moment. I'm sorry. As a politician, you give up that memory of going to the Super Bowl with your son. Yes, it's difficult, but you made the choice to be the mayor, and that does, unfortunately, at times sacrifice certain things inside of your own personal life. It's part of the job. So this one, you give up the tickets and you raise the money. You do the good thing that helps solve the problem you were just crying about.
Right.
But,
right. And that being the other component to this. If the city of Denver's thriving, you got a budget surplus, no one's paying attention. You literally the day before are crying on television about these budget cuts and how awful they are.
Yeah.
And then you accept those gifts and head out to the Super Bowl with your son.
Yeah. And it's something that could have been turned into even a little bit of budget relief. No, it doesn't cover the millions, but does it help? Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Some people say they're texting in saying we're too tough on him. Let the mayor do something fun with his son.
Okay. I mean, again, yes, it is great. He could do something fun with his son. That couldn't be eulogies. I mean, it couldn't be sitting at home on the front couch. I have a hard justification saying this because of this gift. I understand that private citizen Mike Johnston, I have a whole different approach to this. Whole different approach. But it's because of the office that he chose, that he asked us to vote for him. That's why in this case, it makes it different for me. That yes, unfortunately, when you take those jobs, sometimes the agreement is you have to sacrifice the personal fun. Yes, sorry. That comes with putting on the mayor's hat, my opinion.
Let's get the Frank McNulty bat sign out and call him for an ethics complaint. Let us know what you think. 303-696-1971. Text in on the 710 KNUS app. Mike Johnston making a tearful plea for budget cuts and then jumping on an airplane to the Super Bowl with free gifts that probably likely break the gifting rule for the city of Denver. All right. We've got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Text messages in: public servant or public grifter? Let me guess. Talking about Mike Johnston taking Super Bowl tickets after complaining about budget cuts. Who cares? It's just another chapter in the decline of a once great city of Denver. So, yeah, there you go. The mayor of Denver in tears, talking about the decline of the city and all the illegal immigration he has to deal with, and then jumping on a plane to go to the Super Bowl. Let's get to You Choose the News, Bill.
Yes, sir. It is that time on Friday where we play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, Loser Edition.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
Loser!
Let's go. Loser! You're a loser!
It's a losers club. Bunch of losers.
You're such a loser.
You made me feel like a loser!
She's a loser.
You are such a loser.
Loser.
Yes, it is the Loser Edition of You Choose the News, featuring both Jeff Hunt and our newsman, Blake Olson. These are the stories that were deemed unworthy earlier in the week, so they're coming back for a second shot at greatness. Again, you know how we do this. Stupid stories about us dumb humans, ridiculous headlines, and yeah, the powers that be don't know we're doing this. So they don't wake up yet, so we got to do this early. All righty, here's the returning champions. That's odd. It's like choices have consequences. Headline number 2, Texas overachieves. Headline number 3, because we've obviously mastered the technology. And headline number 4, seems like an odd thing to worry about. Your choice, sir.
Texas.
Texas overachieves. This comes to us from Dallas and the top 10 Forbes Advisor rankings of what? The worst drivers in America. And Texas overachieved. They have 2 people on the top 10. They have two cities. They have both 6 and 9, Dallas, Texas, and Fort Worth, Texas. Worst drivers can be found in Albuquerque, New Mexico, according to this survey. Memphis, Detroit, Tucson, Kansas City round out the top 5. Nobody on there from Colorado. So again, as you're navigating I-70 over the weekend, realize that, yes, they may be idiots, but they're not the worst in the country. All right. Second choice, sir. That's odd. It's like choices have consequences. Headline number 2, because we've obviously mastered the technology. Or number 3, seems like an odd thing to worry about.
Seems like an odd thing to worry about.
It does seem like an odd thing to worry about. We traveled to Boise, Idaho, and their state legislature for this. Representative Heather Scott has presented a bill before the House committee that would expand previous language. But the subject's a little bit odd. It's about language prohibiting cannibalism. Evidently, that's a problem in Boise. Now, the reason is that the state has legalized human composting. And the concern that she has
here in Denver, too.
Yeah. And the concern is human compost getting into the food supply is her thing. And so because of that, she thinks that we need to expand the definition of cannibalism. And I just want to know what Heather thinks we are putting in the compost pile in the first place. Heather, what are you doing with your compost pile? Maybe we need to start digging and looking. I just think that's a really weird thing to worry about. And our final choice this morning will be by newsman Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake. How are you?
Good morning.
Good. Are you ready to once again sully your reputation?
I'm going to do this in honor of Fani Willis. I just found out her name is Fani. Not Fanny.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
She can't hear you.
It Fani? It's not Fanny?
Yeah, no, it's Fani.
Yeah,
it is.
Fani.
Yeah, it's Fani. But, again, she's not listening. That's odd. It's like choices have consequences, or because we've obviously mastered the technology.
Let's go with technology.
Good choice, sir. Now, the constant hum fills the air at California's tax agency this time of year. Phones are ringing, keyboards are clacking. Hundreds of thousands of Californians, businesses are seeking very important tax guidance because you know how it is, Blake. You get this wrong, you're going to get fined. Yes. They can get call volumes of up to $10,000 a day, and they have decided there is an easy solution. Why not use artificial intelligence? Because we've obviously perfected that technology, right? Yeah. So California's tax offices are now going to start using artificial intelligence to answer your questions. You know, the same artificial intelligence that has routinely gotten things wrong and come to the wrong conclusions. The really fun part about this is that California is still going to hold you responsible for the mistakes their artificial intelligence has made. Because, of course, they are. That's kind of how government works. You know how that is, Blake, right? Yeah. You're responsible for your mistakes.
Do.
And
you,
and you're responsible for
Billy.
their mistakes.
Yes.
That is all the time we've got. Thank you so much, Blake Olson, as always. Yes.
Soon.
Talk to you later. Oh,
Bye.
Bye. We'll hear from Blake in just a couple minutes. That is the end of You Choose the News. As always, Jeff, Blake are the winners, and I'm just a giant loser. We now return to the regularly scheduled portion of the program. Back to you, sir.
All right. So we're going to have Chris Murray here in studio in just a second as we get and dive into the Fani Willis debacle yesterday. I could not turn off the television, and I think she might be up here again today.
You lost the remote?
Yeah.
Like in a couch somewhere. I wish I could change the channel.
It's like watching a train wreck.
Yeah. Again, I'm watching them burn advertising dollars. That's just how it was. I'm like, any idea how much money you're giving up right now? Oh, well.
She's not listening. Quick wit, Bill, for the win.
Thanks.
So Chris Murray is an election law attorney. Will talk to us about all of these cases. I mean, there'll be a decision made today in the New York case on how much Donald Trump owes for apparently not harming anybody. And then the Fani Willis case as well. So, it's just court TV, Donald Trump all day today. So you're not going to want to miss it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good Friday morning. You made it. 7 a.m. in the Mile High City, Friday, February 16th. And we've got a whole lot to discuss, my friends. Joining us in studio is Chris Murray. He's an election law attorney, brilliant man. And we're going to cover all things Fani.
Yeah. He reminded us that when he comes in every time it snows.
Right.
So if you're mad about the snow in the city today, it is Chris's fault. Blame him.
Fani Willis providing us with a whole lot of entertainment yesterday as she watched her career self-destruct. We'll get into that in just a second. We'll take calls too. This is kind of like the Chris Murray free legal advice hour. So feel free to call in. He will make the disclaimer. He's not providing actual legal advice, just talking on radio. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. Blake Olson. Let's get to the news.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jeff. 22 and mostly cloudy outside, expecting highs in the low 30s in Denver today, maybe a little snow, and there is snow, as we just heard from Chris. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is dead at the age of 47.
Navalny led protests against the Kremlin for more than a decade, even daring to run against Putin. Back in 2020, he fell ill from a military nerve agent poisoned, he said, on the direct orders of Vladimir Putin. He was sentenced last August to a maximum security penal colony on charges of extremism. The Interfax news agency says Navalny passed away after going on a short walk, with efforts to revive him unsuccessful. I'm Michael Kastner.
Victims of the Kansas City shooting remembered in a candlelight vigil. One person killed, over 20 injured, 3 suspects in custody. A verdict in former President Trump's civil fraud trial is expected today.
This is all from the DOJ. This all comes out of Washington. They're coordinated with the district attorney and the AG. The case tomorrow, which is a rigged deal, is all coordinated with the district attorney, and it's coordinated with the Attorney General of New York, Letitia James, who ought to be ashamed of herself. She's campaigned for years of trying to get Trump without knowing anything about me.
James leading that one, and then the DA in Fulton County, Georgia, Fani Willis, back in court today. Get your popcorn. She's accused of misconduct, selecting her ex-boyfriend, prosecutor Nathan Wade, to go after Trump. And they spent a lot of money and time together, especially on the big 5-0.
The only one that's ever taken somebody someplace is for his 50th birthday. I consider that I took him to Belize. And I took him to Belize because, I don't want to discuss his personal business, but I'm happy Mr. Wade is still here with us. And I did 50 big, very big.
All right. Now you know that. President Biden in East Palestine, Ohio today, more than a year after a train derailment spilled toxic chemicals into the community. The Avs lose to the Lightning. CU falls to UCLA. College hoops, 20 in Arvada, 18 in Castle Rock, and 22 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Stay tuned. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
All right, we're off and running with Fani Willis and what happened yesterday. We got Chris Murray in the studio. So, Chris, let's start with an overview of why they were even kind of deposing her or cross-examining her. Why was she up there in the first place?
All right. Well, I mean, also great to be back with you, Jeff and Bill. And I don't take blame for the snow. I will note that I did have to drive through it on the way in.
I object.
In a very cool car, by the way, in a very cool car.
Well, but yeah, let's answer your question about why was the district attorney for Fulton County on the stand getting cross-examined by defense lawyers. or actually examined by defense lawyers. And the reason is because about a month ago, the lawyers for one of President Trump's co-defendants, and remember the charges here are that President Trump conspired with a bunch of people on his campaign to steal the Georgia election. So one of the co-defendants is a fellow named Mike Roman. Full disclosure, by the way, I actually worked with Mike Roman on Mitt Romney's campaign in 2012. Yeah. So I know Mike. I'm a little biased in his case. But I'll just say that Mike's lawyer noticed that Fani Willis had a divorce case going on, and so did Mr. Wade, the special prosecutor in the case. And there were, it's a town, right? There were rumors that the two of them were romantically involved, and she went ahead and scoured the records in the divorce case, the bank records that have to be disclosed in these very acrimonious divorces that were going on. Mm-hmm. And lo and behold, she found evidence of trips to places that you really wouldn't ordinarily go by yourself. I mean, Jeff, how many times have you taken a Carnival cruise on your own? Right. And
right.
So
just wander around the cruise ship late at night, right?
And Natalie Merchant, right. And Natalie Merchant is the name of Mr. Roman's lawyer, and she did what any good lawyer would do when she sees something like that. She said, wonder what that's about, and started pulling at the strings, and made some public records requests about when the DA was out of office, and eventually, by investigating this, realized, oh my gosh, I think Fani Willis and Nathan Wade were on vacations together while this was all going on. And why does that matter? Why does that matter at all?
Right.
Well, because Fani Willis's office, the DA's office for Fulton County, is paying Nathan Wade his hourly rate as an attorney to be the special prosecutor in this case. Almost $750,000 of public money have been paid to this man since he took the job about almost 2 years ago. Almost 2 years ago now. So the reason why Fani Willis was on the stand is because the defense attorney said, look, there's a conflict of interest here. Oh my gosh, you hired your boyfriend, right, to prosecute my client, right? And you're using it as a way to get public funds, right? That, by the way, you wouldn't be paid in your salary, right? To get public funds to your boyfriend, who's then spending them on lavish vacations for you. So whatever the merits of this case, you ought to be disqualified from prosecuting me. And that's why she was up there, was to answer questions about whether or not this is true and whether or not she and her office should be disqualified in the case.
And if she was disqualified, the case itself wouldn't go away.
Not necessarily.
The quote RICO case against Donald Trump.
Yeah, what it would mean if she was disqualified is another prosecutor, probably a prosecutor from, and I'll admit, I don't know Georgia's laws about how they replace prosecutors. I'll say in states I'm familiar with, what would happen is a prosecutor from another jurisdiction, like a neighboring county, like maybe Cobb County, mm-hmm. right, would take a look at the case afresh and say, whoa, should this case even be brought, and make a new decision on prosecution.
So she's put up to testify on this issue yesterday. Did it go very well for her?
So I did not watch all of it because I have a day job. But I will admit, every now and then at work, right, I'll get texts from lawyer friends saying, dude, you have to take a look at this. like drop whatever you're doing if you can and watch it. So I watched a little.
Here's MSNBC. MSNBC, no bastion of conservatism on the play-by-play.
So legalistic centric, and it's so legalistic centric and yet so important and fascinating.
Right. Don't let the legalese fool you. This is epic. This is monumental. If things are going in the direction we think, Fani Willis lied to the court, it's game over for her. She will be disqualified. If they had a relationship prior to when they represented to the court, it's a huge deal. I can't overstate it.
You lose MSNBC, you libs just walk off the plank.
I mean, and look, like, I mean, I think beyond the issue of when Fani Willis and Nathan Wade began their romantic entanglement, right? Which, by the way, doesn't look great. I mean, Nathan Wade was hired on November 1st, 2022 to be the special prosecutor. Do you know when he filed for divorce?
The day after, right? That was part of the contention.
November 2nd, he filed the next day, right? And so leaving aside when they started the relationship, Jeff, Bill, I mean, I think this lays bare how unserious this case in Georgia is, and how unserious these prosecutors are. Because if this was really about saving democracy, about protecting our democratic system, my goodness, even if you do develop, let's say everything's true, she developed romantic feelings for him after he was on the job, right? And these things happen, fine, so be it. But wouldn't you say, hey, you want to know what, Nathan? I love you, but we're trying to save the country here.
Right, exactly.
We've got to get another lawyer in on the case because there can be no stain on this. We can't risk it. No, the way that she testified yesterday, it looks like she thought she was entitled to do this.
Yeah, no, and we can get to some of that audio in a second because it was incredibly combative. So, I mean, the big issue here being from a conservative perspective is that Democrat campaign operatives, in an effort to try to stop Donald Trump, shopped around and looked for a district attorney that would prosecute this case, right? This wasn't just, Fulton County, this crime didn't take place specifically in Fulton County, did it?
Well, arguably it's the capital of Georgia, so there's a good argument for why it would be in Fulton County. But there have been news stories that there were several other prosecutors in Georgia who looked at this, right? Yeah. And said, no, thanks. Right. There were prosecutors in other states. Because President Trump, for all of his good qualities, right? Sometimes one of his bad qualities is that sometimes he just picks up the phone and calls people and says what's on his mind, right? Without thinking about how that's going to go. And so
that someone's probably recording it.
Yeah, right. And that somebody's probably recording it because it's the president of the United States, right? And he made calls like the calls he made in Georgia, right, to other state elections officials, right? Other prosecutors looked at this and decided, maybe the calls are unsavory, but there's no RICO crime.
RICO,
here.
Right?
Fani Willis was the only person who would bring this charge. Well, and also the Manhattan DA, but that case was even worse.
So there's some classic lines in here. He's a Southern gentleman. I'm not. Let's listen to this one.
So let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
So that was right at the beginning, and it kind of sets the tone for how the whole cross-examination is going to go. Yep. She's angry, she's combative, she's not going to be a Southern gentleman. Mr. Wade had gone before her. Now, was she even called? I think part of the question at the beginning was she just kind of showed up.
Well, that's right. So the defense attorneys, look, getting the district attorney on the stand in a disqualification motion, that's why this is so wild. Like, this just doesn't happen, right? And so the defense attorneys in the case, I think, were properly deferential to her a little bit and said, look, it may be that we don't need to have her on the stand, right? It may be that, the evidence comes out the way we think it's going to go, and we don't actually have to put the sitting DA up there.
Right.
And
embarrass her and dive into her sex life and all that stuff. Yeah.
But one of her own former colleagues and friends got on the stand and said, yeah, everything in your motion is right. They've been romantically involved for years. Everybody knew it. And apparently then she ran down to the courthouse and said, put me up there because I'm gonna say something different than that. And if you're Natalie Merchant, the attorney for Mr. Roman, how in the world do you not take her up on that?
Right. So help me understand why the cash in the house thing was so important. Listen to this audio.
But I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house. And I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to, because I don't go on many dates. But when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from? If it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. We've had cash for years in my house.
It's like admitting to being a mobster.
The source of when it comes from, When you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from?
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband. No. It's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from. And so for many, many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash, in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from.
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
You know which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job, because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period. That's probably in there. It could have.
So we're talking with Chris Murray. He's an election law attorney about the Fani Willis cross-examination that took place yesterday. Why is the cash issue so important? Why did they spend so much time on it? And why does she sound like she's a mob boss?
Well, I'm not going to comment on the mob boss, right? I got nothing against cash. I actually love cash, right? But here's the thing. Cash does come from somewhere, right? I mean, the cash doesn't just, at least I don't have a safe where cash materializes inside of it. If I had that kind of a safe, I probably wouldn't be working. But the reason this mattered so much is because, look, it was clear that Nathan Wade, in his divorce records, he disclosed credit card bills that were paying for tickets for two people, right? Travel to exotic destinations, paying for checks at restaurants, expensive restaurants in places like Belize, for example, right?
Which continent is that?
That is in Central America. That is,
she couldn't answer that, by the way.
No, they couldn't. And they speak English down there, by the way, and they take dollars. They took Nathan Wade's dollars. And so the reason this mattered is because the theory of the defense is, hey, look, where did Nathan Wade get all that money to go on these lavish vacations? Well, this $750,000 contract from Fulton County. And what was Nathan Wade spending a bunch of this money on? The district attorney who signed the contract, right? Paying for lavish dates and vacations with her. And so what she was trying to say is, oh, no, don't worry. It's all on the level. I paid him back. Okay, well, how'd you pay him back? Did you cut a check? No. You Venmo him? No. PayPal? No. Do you have credit card records showing you picked up part of these expenses? No. So how'd you pay him back? Cash, right? And why does cash matter? Because as we all know, it's harder to trace cash, right? And so to me, and I'll just say this is my opinion, I don't know that this is true or not, but I'll say that story sounded concocted to me. It sounded like it is the story that you would come up with if you know that there's no way to justify what's happened here. Okay, I've got a magical safe in my house where I've always had cash and where my tears turn into money.
But she doesn't believe she's on trial.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
And, well, no, look. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So liberal Twitter is like, yeah, Fani, stand up. We're taking on the election, deniers and those that tried to overturn a duly elected president. Why are we into this woman's personal life?
Well, I mean, look, we're the only reason her personal life matters one whit here, at least as far as the law goes, is because literally this is maybe the only way it could matter, right? The defense has presented credible evidence. I mean, like a document trail showing that Nathan Wade, the man who made $750,000 on a contract to prosecute Donald Trump, from Fani Willis's office turned around and spent a bunch of that money on nobody else but Fani Willis. Okay. That looks like somebody, a public official, saying, hey, let me take some money that I have control over that I couldn't just give to myself and essentially launder it through my boyfriend, through my boyfriend back to myself. And that goes to the question, and given the timing of their romantic relationship, that Nathan Wade files for divorce the day after he gets the contract to do this, the defense said, hey, is this whole prosecution just a grift? Is this just a chance for Fani Willis to send money to her boyfriend and take it back for herself? And because it's such a big deal to the left, she thinks nobody will ask any questions. That is a fair question based on the evidence in the case, because trust me, if you saw some of the video, the judge in the case, I think that's his name is Judge McAfee, right? He looked like a hostage there. I mean, he did not want to be doing this hearing. I think he felt he had no choice but to conduct this hearing because of the strength of the evidence the defense put together.
Wow. Yeah. Here's Willis running for office, by the way, talking about how different she's going to be when she gets in as district attorney.
Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children. Because we deserve better.
That was just a few years before she became district attorney.
I had not heard that clip. That is one hell of a clip.
It's literally every little thing.
Well, I mean, except that I guess in her defense, she's not having sex. She's not a he. So she's not having sex with like his employees.
She used the right pronoun.
Yeah, she did. But other than that, yikes, that is awful.
It is. It's a big deal. If you remember, Fani Willis was the one that put Donald Trump into the mugshot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this was the one that they kind of celebrated. They got him, and you get that scowling look, by the way, which has been made into lots of T-shirts. It's brilliant, right?
Yep.
How do you think Donald Trump should have responded in that mugshot? Do you think he should have smiled? Do you think it was right for him to kind of give the scowl?
So I've never been in a mugshot, so I don't really know.
Bill, have you been in a mugshot?
No, that's surprising actually. Now that I think about it, no. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm not going to give a lot of mugshot advice. I'll just say I don't think it's anybody's job to look happy when they're in a mugshot, right? And so but again, like coming back to what I said a little bit earlier, right? I had forgotten that she was the prosecutor who insisted on the mugshot, right?
Yeah.
And again, now knowing what we know about this situation with Mr. Wade, right? Whoever's telling the truth, right? The fundamental unseriousness on her part, right? That this appears to me to be theater, something that she takes lightly. Because if she took her job seriously here, there is no way in heck, even if everything she says is true, she would avoid every appearance of impropriety.
Yeah.
Because if she meant what she says, that she is trying to safeguard democracy, safeguard the country from a dangerous person, right? You make sacrifices to do that sort of a thing. And it appears here, she was unwilling to even be marginally careful.
I mean, does that come out in the whole cross-examination shit that she's not a serious person?
I mean, I don't know whether she's a serious person or not, right? But what I will say is I don't think she has taken her job in this case, assuming she believes that there actually was a crime committed here. She does not take that seriously, right? And a fair-minded person watching it could come to the conclusion, does she even think that something happened here? Or is this just all about making a name for herself? And she thought she could get away with
Don't be cute with me.
He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer.
And I will ask you about the contract in a minute. I asked you about cash.
Don't be cute with me. Yeah. I mean, it's we'll get to calls here. Feel free to give us a call if you want to talk about the Fani Willis case with Chris Murray, an election law attorney. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us in on the 710 KNUS app. What did you think of yesterday's appearance of Fani Willis in a cross-examination? Is this case, or should the case in Fulton County, Georgia, be dismissed? Is this whole thing just a grift to target a political opponent, or is Donald Trump honestly guilty of RICO charges in trying to overturn an election in Georgia. I'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Did she really appear in court with her dress on backwards? I've kind of gone back and forth with that. I've seen some on Twitter say yes and others say no. Listen to some of her testimony. I can't believe she actually passed the bar. She can't even speak properly. Some critique there. I always keep $20 in my purse. That's about as much as I carry on me. The cash thing is just fascinating. It sounds like those drug cartel guys down in South America. They have so much cash, they don't know what to do with it because they're so honest and being paid. Friends, I got to tell you about Roll 'em Out shelves. Imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With Roll 'em Out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll 'em Out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and they're all 5-star reviews confirm it. Here's what some of the overjoyed customers say. We are so happy with our kitchen that now we're planning to do our bathrooms as well with Roll 'em Out shelves. The quality of the products are excellent. The quality of the labor installation is outstanding. The customer service is unsurpassed. I absolutely recommend Roll 'em Out shelves. They are very good listeners, and they have great suggestions for cabinetry solutions. This is a top-notch company. Excellent product, excellent service and installation. We had shelves installed in the laundry room and kitchen. Makes a world of difference in accessing items. I highly recommend them. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll 'em Out shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601 or rollemoutshelves.com. Tell them Jeff sent you, rollemoutshelves.com. The phone lines are starting to fill up. We'll get to you in just a second. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadye, and here are the top stories we're following. The Biden administration is looking to expand student loan forgiveness for those facing hardship. In New York, Haley Bianco has more.
Americans who are struggling to repay federal student loans because of financial hardship could get some of their debt canceled under President Joe Biden's latest attempt at forgiveness. Several categories of borrowers are being targeted for relief under Biden's second try at widespread cancellation after the Supreme Court rejected his first plan last year. The Education Department is expanding its proposal to include those who face financial hardship. The plan was expanded amid pressure from advocates who said the proposal didn't do enough for struggling borrowers. Whether any of the relief will materialize is a looming question, as conservatives vow to challenge any attempt at loan cancellation.
The fatal shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Victory Parade has revived America's debate over gun laws. Survivors of previous mass shootings, including the Las Vegas massacre and attacks in Nashville, Colorado Springs, and Buffalo, have called for a federal ban on assault weapons. The survivors, some of whom are gun owners, have thrown their support behind the proposed Go Safe Act. The legislation would effectively ban gas-powered semi-automatic firearms and large-capacity magazines. The bill targets the kind of weapons behind 9 of the 10 deadliest shootings since 2016. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadier in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
All right, we're talking all things Fani Willis and the disaster that was the cross-examination that took place yesterday. Chris Murray, an election law attorney, is joining us in studio, answering some of our questions. Let's go to line 1 with Frank. Frank, you're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Chris, thanks for all you do in the justice system and, especially the election law thing. I guess my question to you today is, how pervasive do you think that this type of persons being installed in our justice system is in the large cities across the country? And where did it come from? Did it come from a left-wing / Democratic effort to install these type of people with George Soros money? Or was an ideology sold to some of these people that felt that this is the way to rectify things of 100 years in their mind? And how long and how difficult is it going to be to clean up? And is the justice system going to rectify itself through judges, through good lawyers like yourself, or through the voter integrity that you're trying to push? I know that's a big question.
No, that's all right, Frank. I appreciate the question. So let's break it down into, I guess, kind of two pieces. One, how common is it to have a special prosecutor appointed? That actually, I'm going to say there's nothing nefarious about a DA hiring a special prosecutor, right? And let me explain why ordinarily there's no big deal. Sometimes a district attorney gets a case, right, that is an area of law that a district attorney just does not normally have to deal with. Frankly, elections offenses are cases like this, where somebody, for example, if you actually catch somebody committing petition fraud and it's in a jurisdiction where they've never prosecuted an election crime, a district attorney might say, geez, Louise, I don't know much about this. I don't have the time to learn about it, but it is important that this person be prosecuted effectively. I'm going to go out and find a lawyer who knows something about it. I'm going to deputize them as a DA, and I'm going to pay them their hourly rate to either help us out or prosecute the case. That actually makes a ton of sense in limited circumstances, and I don't think anybody would bat an eyelash at that. In a civil RICO case for an election fraud matter in Georgia, assuming this was all true, right, I think it would be the kind of case that probably would call for a special prosecutor, right? The thing that is rare is a prosecutor hiring their boyfriend and then going on vacations with them, using the money that their office has paid. Now, as far as how do you rectify this sort of stuff? Well, look, I'll tell you right now. I think that there are probably, I bet you DAs across the country and defense attorneys across the country, and then other lawyers like me are watching this with our eyes just wide, like, oh my goodness. How could you let this happen? How could you do this? And what you're seeing right now is part of the solution to the problem. Every now and then, somebody needs to cross a line and needs to get called to the carpet for it in order to maintain deterrence for public officials from using their incredible discretion to benefit themselves, right, privately. This, Fani Willis may think that she's done nothing wrong here. I think she might be the only person in America who thinks she's done nothing wrong here. And I think that prosecutors, judges will see this, and the next time somebody raises allegations like this, if they're provable, a judge is going to take them even more seriously. So I think that is part of the solution. But I don't think that there's any special prosecutors are not some grand leftist conspiracy. The plan to prosecute Trump might well be. It certainly looks like that with all of the, because there's some cases against him, like the classified documents, where you could say, geez, there's something there, even though there was something there for Joe Biden and he hasn't been prosecuted, right? And then there's cases like the New York fraud case today, where he's being accused of committing fraud to obtain a loan that he paid back, right? And that certainly looks like that was hatched somewhere. So how do you fix that? Unfortunately, our politics have to get a lot more civil, and I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Thank you.
Frank, appreciate the call. Frank's line is open, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us in on the 710 KNUS app. No one can accuse Fani of being cute. don't be cute with me.
No
comment.
Accuse her of
being cute. The best part of the end was when the judge was like, we need to stop for the day. And the lawyer went 9 a.m. and the judge was like, no, 10's good. Willis is not going to take the stand today. State says it has no further questions for her. So she
that is the smartest move I've seen the state make in this case. Yeah, that's just coming up on Fox News right now, and that is a good move by the state's attorneys. I think putting her back on the stand only invites more trouble.
Fani Willis is nothing more than an elite liberal, and she's a Democrat, so nothing more than, a paid hack. Let's talk New York. We're going to find out today how much Donald Trump has to pay. The judge already decided that he did engage in fraud. Yep. Consequences could range everything from having to pay, a few $100 million to being banned from doing business in New York ever again.
Yep.
Where do you think this one goes? And is there an appeal process after this?
There is an appeal. So where it goes, I don't know. Look, it is clear that this judge in New York believes that Trump has done something wrong. It is also clear that, frankly, President Trump has gone out of his way. I think he may feel like he has no choice, but he has gone out of his way to antagonize this judge and this judge's clerk. Remember, this is the case where President Trump several times was talking about the nasty person sitting next to the judge in the courtroom, and that's the judge's courtroom clerk. And he was actually subjected to a gag order to stop talking about the judge's clerk. And so I don't think today is going to go terribly well for President Trump. The whole trial hasn't gone terribly well for him. I would anticipate that there's going to be a significant monetary fine levied against him, and that he probably will be banned from doing business in the state of New York. And there is an appeal process. There's an appeal as of right, just like everywhere else. So hopefully what the judge will do, since this is a fine and not just a ordinary civil monetary judgment, hopefully the judge will say, look, you have your appellate rights. Go ahead and take it up before the state can try and collect any of this.
Right.
The judge will hopefully stay the impact of any order keeping the Trump organization from doing business in New York. But who knows? If they don't, if the judge doesn't stay that, then it could go into effect immediately or very shortly after the trial. And President Trump would have to ask the New York appellate courts to lift that while he pursues his appeal.
But the whole thing's based on this idea that somehow he created harm by inflating or devaluing his properties so they didn't have to pay as much interest, or what's the whole basis of those cases?
Well, I mean,
and who was hurt? That's what I don't.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is, right, I mean, as I understand it, I haven't followed this case terribly closely, so I may get a couple of the details wrong on this, but as I understand it, the theory is that President Trump, through his business organizations, was going to banks saying, hey, I want loans, for different projects or operating capital, whatnot. And that he collateralized those loans, right, by putting up assets of the businesses, right, real estate assets. And that at the same time that he was fighting with the state saying, hey, these things actually aren't worth as much money as you say to try and get lower property tax bills, he was saying to the bank, oh, they're worth way more than you think, right? They totally collateralize your loan. Don't worry about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is unsavory. It's certainly inconsistent, right? But I think I think we can all understand, right, the motivation to tell the state it's worth less and tell the bank it's worth more, right? I think a lot of businesses do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it's the right thing to do. And by the way, certainly the tax assessor, I think, would have a right, if they found out about this, to say, we're going to go ahead and deny that appeal. Go ahead and pay the higher property taxes. But I'm not aware of any case, especially in a case where a loan was paid back in full, of a fraud case being brought for this type of conduct.
So we'll be watching that. The judge has already said that he thinks Donald Trump did engage in fraud, but they're waiting to get the actual punitive decision made today.
Pardon me, Chris. I want to explore that idea of the lack of harm. Is the linchpin the fact that there's no harm in this case? That because the loans are paid back, is that where we hang our hat on this being a fraudulent case or a BS case, as Trump has said numerous times?
Yeah, I mean, so look, I think it's a fair question, Bill. I saw you working on something back there, so I knew.
Actually, no, I'm doing. I tell you, I'm writing some stuff. I had to edit last podcast hour, and when I'm done with here, I have to go do 5 hours of radio for the mother job. So I'm literally prepping another show. I'm sorry. I thought you guys were talking. It was a great conversation. So I'm sitting over there writing stuff.
I saw you back there in the lab, and I knew it would be an insightful question.
You saw the smoke come out.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is a fair question.
Yeah.
Right. So whether it's a BS case or not, right? I mean, I think I just described basically what the prosecutors say went on. I don't know that that's BS, but it is pretty thin stuff, right? And it is not the kind of thing that any ordinary person would be prosecuted for, right? Especially, I mean, now, if they took the money and embezzled it, if they took the money and did something criminal with it, then I could see this charge being thrown on top, right, of other stuff in that case, right? But I'm not aware of, and I think you guys have got Brauchler coming on after this, right? Because he can't quit you guys, right? He can't leave, especially now that
back mountain,
especially now that the studio is clean and there's a plant in here, right? He has to come in, but it's a better question for him. But I'll just say, Bill, I think the place to hang your hat is, I think it's pretty clear the only person in the world who would get prosecuted for this is somebody with whom the attorney general, the DA, has an axe to grind, right?
So you're saying, and technically, it would be okay if I went out and claimed one thing on my taxes and then claimed something else getting a loan for my house. That's great for me to do.
No. I'm not saying it would be okay.
Okay.
But I'm saying that if you did it, Bill, right? And if the attorney general or the IRS or the assessor knew about it, you're not going to get prosecuted.
Now, couldn't I, in theory, take that same argument about not many people being prosecuted and turn that around and apply that to the Hunter Biden IRS and gun charge case, especially in the gun charge, because that particular crime is hardly ever prosecuted. Could I make in good faith the same argument there with those series of charges?
I think you absolutely could. Okay. I think you absolutely could. And actually, I mean, look, my pet theory on why is Hunter Biden being prosecuted for gun cases? Well, he was being prosecuted for them so that it could all be wrapped up in a collusive plea deal that blew up in front of a federal judge.
Yes.
And the only reason he's still being prosecuted is because the DOJ doesn't know how to make it go away.
Yes, I can't agree with you more on that, because inside of the when the deal blew up, one of the things that happened was they noticed this extra stuff inside that the defense had in their agreement, and the judge said, "Hey, prosecutor, do you know about this?" The prosecutor goes, "Did the Scooby-Doo thing, though?" And I kind of looked at it and goes, no, that is not what we agreed. Because, he absolutely rolled in. This is a blanket umbrella part for everything.
And the prosecutor, and this is just my opinion, the prosecutor absolutely knew it was there.
Oh,
just
really?
didn't want to admit in open court that they knew it was there.
But again, I'm okay with that. It's there.
I'm just saying, but you're right. The charges against Hunter Biden are rarely brought by themselves. Firearms charges like this are usually a tack-on charge, right? Hey, we've got you here for drug running. Oh, by the way, you're a convicted felon, and you shouldn't have had a firearm, right? Okay, we're going to charge you with that too, so we can get some more time in prison for you. But the Hunter Biden, I think the Hunter Biden charges are politically motivated, except to help Hunter Biden, right? To try and wrap up all of his problems in a tidy little package.
And I would say also to cover for Joe. To say, look, we're not doing the political stuff that everybody says we are, that it provides cover. Because if the DOJ and the special prosecutor charges my son, you then can't tell me that I'm only going after my enemies.
100%. And I think there is something there in this New York case. I'm not saying there's not anything there, right? But just the nature of the case, I have a hard time believing if President Trump hadn't been President Trump, that these charges would have been brought against the Trump organization. I just don't believe it.
If you need a lawyer, a great lawyer to call, the law office is of Dan Kaplis.
And that's awkward with Chris here.
Dan's a great guy, a good lawyer.
He is.
Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar jury verdicts in motor vehicle crash cases. Dan and his partner, Babar Wahid, won the largest truck crash jury verdict in Colorado history. The firm's history of 7- and 8-figure settlements and verdicts speaks for itself. They are a firm where good people from all walks of life, without regard to ability to pay, receive the level of legal representation that the rich and powerful enjoy. Dan Kaplis Law believes that talk is cheap, experience counts, results matter. The firm would be happy to share with you its track record of outstanding jury verdicts and out-of-court settlements. Dan Kaplis Law believes that who you hire says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. They suggest you choose a law firm that shares your values. The firm believes that its core values have been the foundation of its historic success: faith, integrity, hard work, and a dedication to righteous causes. If you need Dan's help, give him a call, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dankaplislaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S law.com. Give us a call if you'd like to talk with election attorney Chris Murray. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
Just before the 8 o'clock hour, 7:53 in the beautiful Mile High City. It's the weekend, so it means we get snow. It's been that way for the last. I'm a rancher, and I always look forward to the weekends because we can get ranch work done. We can clean the stalls. We can mend some fences, all that stuff. And it just snows. It's the last 3 weeks.
So you're saying Mother Nature hates you?
Nah, she's not giving me a break.
That's
man.
not good.
She's not giving me a break. Some good text messages coming in. We have Chris Murray, an election law attorney, in studio. Isn't the onus always on the lending institution to verify the value of collateral? And wouldn't they start with tax records? I get lobbying for higher valuation for the purposes of collateral, and I would imagine that is really common. Pete in Denver with a good text message. We're talking about Trump's case, which has already been decided in New York that he did engage in fraud, but they're going to determine what that penalty is for today.
Yeah, I mean, and Pete in Denver, that is a great text, and I think Pete's exactly right. I mean, it is, of course, you're going to try and tell a bank, right, that your collateral is worth more money. And of course, by the way, when you're talking about millions and millions of dollars, a bank is going to engage in diligence. And yeah, they do usually take a look at tax records. And so that's the thing. They understand this, right?
Yeah, right?
They understand that the assessed valuation may be lower than what they think the collateral is worth. And if they decide that, that's them saying, we're cool with the chance we're wrong.
Yeah. Here's a text message back. I think Trump benefited $100 million in reduced interest, and shareholders of the bank were the victims.
Man, again, I agree with this text as well. I mean, the victims, I guess, are the people of New York who are allowing the Trump organization to have a business license, because it's just a dangerous thing. And again, this goes back to the conversation that I had with Bill before the break, right? What's troubling about this is not that there's like absolutely no way this theory works legally. It's that it seems like the only person who would have this case brought against them is Donald Trump.
Now, the fun thing is with that text, I like that idea about there's no harm. So no harm or no foul, pay back the money. The odd thing is, if I go out tonight and I drink 7 beers and get behind the wheel and I'm a block from my house and I get pulled over for drunk driving, I haven't harmed anybody. There's no victim, but I absolutely broken the law. So I disagree with the premise that there needs to be a victim in order for a law to be broken, personally.
Right. I mean, and I think that's fair. I just say that the analogy isn't perfect, right? Because what's the,
I'd agree.
How many people is the Trump organization endangering in New York by going to bankers and saying, my stuff's worth more than it is?
Don't ask AOC. So just whatever you do, don't ask her.
All right. Up next is George Brauchler. He's going to give us all the tips on where to hide your cash, especially if you're a district attorney.
And
so
can I be his secret lover?
Right. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
8 a.m. in the Mile High City on a Friday, February 16th. You made it, friends. You made it to the weekend.
Congratulations.
And I hope it's a good weekend for you. It's the weekend after Valentine's Day, which is when we actually celebrate Valentine's Day in the Hunt House. So I've got a hot date tonight.
Oh, really? I'm doing tomorrow. Tomorrow's my night. Yeah. Nicely done. What are you guys doing? Anything fun with this?
We're going to my absolute favorite restaurant.
McDonald's? And you're going to let her supersize it?
Close.
No.
Yep. Nope. I love the Fort, man.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Fort. Good steak.
Fort is fantastic.
Little red wine.
That's good. Now, I feel awful because you've kind of set the bar really high. I feel this is not good. This is. Honey, hopefully you're not listening. We are going to explore a new Mexican restaurant that we found in the neighborhood.
You said that.
Yeah, there was one in the neighborhood that is closed down post-COVID. They tried to make it after COVID. They made it all the way through, and it just wasn't functional afterwards. And it was really sorry because we'd gone there a whole bunch of times. A buddy of mine, about 2 weeks ago, found something real close to there.
Nice.
I'm like, that's weird. So she and I, it was really good food, small little place. And so we're going to go try that. So we'll have to see.
Colorado has great Mexican restaurants. Absolutely great. Florida, not so much.
Really?
Yeah, we were there over Christmas and it's like no Florida. It's
That's
interesting.
weird.
No Mexican restaurants.
Cuba and everything. Oh, well.
Let's get to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
All right, Jeff, good morning. Thank you very much. 25 and cloudy in Denver with a little snow out there. We're expecting highs in the low 30s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the University of Colorado Springs remains on lockdown, but police say there is not an active shooter situation. Police say the lockdown was put in place after calls for shots fired. Reports say the shots were fired in a dorm. The university has canceled all classes, and police are asking the public to avoid the campus. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is dead. The staunch critic of President Vladimir Putin died while behind bars at the age of 47. Navalny led protests against the Kremlin for more than a decade, even daring to run against Putin. 3 women have died after a fiery Thursday morning crash in Fort Collins. Fort Collins police officer Brandon Barnes says the department will not rest until they get answers.
Certainly, this is a tragic incident. While our team of investigators work to find answers for the family and friends of those that were involved, we're here to support them however we can.
First, the responders found 3 bodies inside the car after the fire was put out. The car drifted onto the shoulder and crashed into a parked truck. The Larimer County Coroner's Office will release the individuals' identities later. Victims of the Kansas City shooting remembered in a candlelight vigil last night. 3 suspects are in custody. A verdict in former President Trump's civil fraud trial is expected today in New York. And the DA in Fulton County, Georgia, once again, Fani Willis, will not take the stand this afternoon. She's accused of misconduct, hiring her ex-boyfriend or boyfriend at the time, prosecutor Nathan Wade, to go after Trump. And they spent a lot of time and money together. Election attorney Chris Murray told the fellas this morning last hour why that cash is so important.
Because the theory of the defense is, hey, look, where did Nathan Wade get all that money to go on these lavish vacations? Well, this $750,000 contract from Fulton County. And what was Nathan Wade spending a bunch of this money on? The district attorney who signed the contract.
Willis had a lot of memorable moments, to say the least. I think this one was my favorite.
When you meet my father, he's going to tell you as a woman, you should always have, which I don't have, so let's don't tell him that. You should have at least 6 months in cash at your house at all times. Now, I don't know why this old black man feels like that, but he does.
Well, you won't see her or hear her today. Absolutely.
If you'd like to tell us how much cash you have in your house, you're welcome to call in and also share your address.
Exactly.
I think other listeners at 710 KNUS would love to know these 6 months of cash and exactly where you live and where it's held in your house.
I agree with you. And I think black, white, brown, whatever race you are, I think a lot of people have an emergency fund. I found that pretty funny. Absolutely.
I do, but mine's in the couch. That's the problem.
Yes.
I got to go through it and get the change. That's my problem.
I believe that. Avs lose to the Lightning. CU falls to UCLA. 22 in Lakewood, 23 in Lone Tree, 25 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue. Stay tuned. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
It was a wild day yesterday with Fani Willis being cross-examined by Trump's attorneys down in Georgia. And we talked to Chris Murray during the 7 o'clock hour as to kind of the implications of all this for the case itself. But I wanted to bring George Brauchler on, as you know, former host of this show and is running for district attorney, has served as district attorney, to just provide some comment on the kind of professionalism of being a district attorney and give us some insight into how Fani Willis did defending the role of a district attorney yesterday. George, welcome to the show.
Buddy, thanks for having me on. It's really hard to know how to describe what took place yesterday in court. I've never seen anything like it as a prosecutor. It's the kind of thing that I think, in just defense of the institution, in defense of the office, when the optics get that toxic on a case of that importance, and I think Chris really described it well, you just got to take yourself off the case. You should tap out. I mean, this is a chokehold with somebody coming in off of the top rope. It's time to let someone else take over, you know?
So, I mean, everything from hiding cash to hiring special prosecutors, having relationships with that. I mean, is it going back to kind of what Chris said, this is one of the biggest, most visible cases. How does a district attorney mess this up so bad with their own personal life? Did we lose him? It was a weird connection. It was
I'm
weird.
here.
Oh, you gotcha? Go ahead, George.
I'm sorry. I know, surrounded by concrete. I think there are so many aspects of this that raise questions about the judgment of this individual. She made comments. I don't think you and Chris talked about this, but at one point she said, when she asked about where's all the cash, says, I took some campaign, my last campaign. I took some cash out. And it's like, no, you didn't. Did you? Because it feels a lot like a crime, because that cash doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the campaign. So, I mean, there's things that she set up there that were just outrageous.
What they've been using this to go after political opponents. Talk about the use of prosecutors and law to try to sabotage a political opponent.
Listen, I am worried more now than I ever have been about the politicization of prosecution. And it doesn't all start with Donald Trump, but Donald Trump has put this issue on steroids. And I think it is just unlikely that we're going to see in the near term any politician ever able to be prosecuted without people wondering if there isn't some political motive behind this. Now, this case that Fani Willis brought was already weak to begin with. It was already politically questionable. But you add on top of that the fact that this is going to overtake, I think, the perception of the prosecution, and you lose sight of the fact that there may be a crime here. There might be, but that's not what we're talking about. People are talking about getting rid of this case because of what Fani Willis did in hiring her boyfriend and making all these great trips, using taxpayer money, presumably. That's what's going to overtake this.
Talking with George Brauchler, a former district attorney, running also for district attorney, about the actions of district attorney Fani Willis yesterday. George, how often have you had to defend yourself as a district attorney? I think one of the shocking things, even from the beginning, was that she showed up and had to defend herself. It almost seemed like she wanted to. What was her thinking, you think?
Well, one, I think she had to. I don't think there was an option for her to not testify in this case. These allegations are so scurrilous, so scandalous, that she really needed to be in the witness stand. But the approach that she took lacked such dignity and class and seemingly candor at points that it was, I think it was damaging to her reputation.
Someone got in the car.
I think it's Bluetooth connected.
Yeah, I think so.
He was walking from one thing to the next.
Get in the car.
George, we get you back?
I'm going to call him.
All right, we'll call him right back.
I'm not.
George?
Damn it.
That was good. I'll get
it. George is busy, obviously running for district attorney again. I'm interested to just see from one district attorney to another about that whole strategy and how Fani Willis did defending herself. And if George has ever been in a similar situation where he's had to defend himself before like that. Is it common for district attorneys to have to take the stand to defend their personal lives? I don't know if it is. Bill, do we have him back? I think we're getting him back. All right. Hey, George, you back with us?
And that's how a bill becomes a law. I don't.
Bill or George, how many times have you had to defend yourself on stand as a district attorney?
Never a single
never
time.
Never once you faced anything like that?
Never once anything like that. Some of the stuff, though, that you become super sensitive about when you're a legit public servant and steward of taxpayer money is this idea of the gift.
Well, this is obviously working as intended.
George is running for office in Elbert County. I live in Elbert County. This is what it's like to drive there and to make conversation.
Shoot. I'm going to pull this down again.
All right.
Yeah, we're going to reconnect. See if
we'll get back to him. I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971. What did you think of Fani Willis yesterday? Did you think that do you think that this case is over in Georgia? I'll try to get George back at this point. Is the RICO charges over? Do we got George now? All right, George, is this case over in Georgia?
No, I don't think it's over at all. I think, though, one of the things that you and Chris started to talk about that didn't get answered is who replaces the DA if Fani Willis is removed?
Yeah.
And it turns out it's the head of the District Attorney's Council out there in Georgia that gets to make that decision. Now, he's a Republican dude. He has the ability to appoint a Republican into that position. I don't know that he will or he won't. He's done that in the past on cases that Fani Willis has tapped out on. But that could change the dynamics quite a bit. Just because the DA gets replaced doesn't mean that they have to inherit the decision-making about whether a case is righteous to move forward. So it will, listen, if he replaces her, it's going to delay the case past the election, no doubt about it. But a future DA that got appointed, if it were me, I would sit there and say, let's start from scratch. Let's rebuild this thing and try to figure out if there's evidence here to support a crime and if we think we can win beyond a reasonable doubt, if we have a reasonable likelihood of success. And that's not a foregone conclusion, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, Chris had mentioned that there's a number of other district attorneys that looked at this case and did not believe that this was a case that would be successful. So there is a chance, there's a pathway in which the replaced district attorney for Fani Willis just goes, I don't think I can win this thing now.
That's right. And simply says, I'm not moving forward. I'm going to move to dismiss. But that decision won't get made in a week or a month. I mean, it took a long time to get here. My guess is it would take a prosecutor working full time with a team of smarty smarts, probably months to cull through the information. Hell, they may want to re-interview witnesses. Either way, I don't think they'd be in a position to reset this case for trial. Best guess in this calendar year.
Do you think that those that took the plea deals, people like Jenna Ellis and others, made the right decision in this case in light of what happened yesterday, or should they have gone forward and fought this?
I wonder if any of them now will try to go back and undo those pleas. I don't think it'll be successful because they had the advice of competent counsel. Mm-hmm. They waived their rights. unless evidence was held, the misconduct of the prosecutor, short of manufacturing evidence or something like that, really shouldn't have an impact on their plea. I think they made the best decision given the information they had at the time. Do I think they wish they had waited now? Yes. I mean, I think all of them wish that they had waited just to see how this plays out. But again, this highlights the other thing, Jeff and Bill, and that is that nothing about this is about the substantive accusations.
Right.
None of this reflects on whether or not there was actually a crime. It's just who are the people that are accusing the president and how are they conducting themselves outside the courtroom. So I think they probably made the best decision in their circumstance, but they do regret moving so quickly.
Now, George, exploring that just for a little bit, because we've heard a lot about this is obviously a tainted prosecution, either funded by Soros or by the White House or, aliens, whatever it is. And this is all because we're going to hoist Donald Trump on his own petard and keep him from running for office. The entire allegations about the incorrect prosecution of Donald Trump, the persecution. How then, again, does that comport to these allegations? Because I keep hearing all these allegations about Fani Willis. None of them actually deal with the functionality of what the charges are first. All the allegations about impropriety and what she was doing, these charges are separate. These allegations are, and if so, how, if any way, does it impact or even invalidate the case?
Yeah, it doesn't. And I think the best way for people to think about this is to take out Donald Trump and take out the crime that's alleged and say, what if this were a murder case, right? Like, we know a murder was committed. We have evidence of it. There's a dead body. And the guy that was accused is just Joe Lunchpail, right? And then you find out that the DA has hired somebody that they claim is an agent, by the way. I love that term, as an agent. And they're out doing exactly what Fani Willis and Wade had done. That doesn't change the fact that a murder was committed. It doesn't change the fact that the other person committed the murder. It only affects all of those other pieces about how they're conducting themselves and whether how they're conducting themselves impact the prosecution of that murder. The problem is we've added in, the most political figure of our lifetimes, Donald Trump, with charges that just scream politics. And now you muddy the waters quite a bit. But these two really are disconnected.
Great point.
George, how often do you pay your agents in cash?
And can I be one of them?
Whenever I can. I mean, obviously, I travel around with a big wad. That was one of the most incredible things. And by incredible, I don't mean amazing. I mean, can't believe it things I've ever heard, that she has $9,000 in cash squirreled away in her house at times because dad says you should always have cash. You have your agent pay for all of these things on his credit card, and then you reimburse him with cash. Is it so he gets the points? I mean, is that what you're doing? Is to just maximize the points? None of that makes any sense to me. I'll give you one quick example of how super serious, though, the money thing is with an elected official. There was a time when I was the elected DA that we had a big meeting with all the law enforcement heads at Broncos headquarters. And while we were there, my son, who was sick from school, came by, and I was going to take him home after the meeting. And somebody from the Broncos, just staff, no one you could ever name, came up and said, hey, how about have this Broncos football thing? Isn't that so super cool? And at the time I was like, oh, that's so super neat. We got home and I thought, wait a minute, that's a gift. And so I went the next day to the gift store to find out the cost of it. It was in excess of $25. So I bought one myself. And I mean, I didn't take it. I just paid for it and told later on the staff, I'm like, I can't accept things like this unless I pay for it and then declare it. And so that's how super serious this was. That was a stupid football that we got from the Broncos. It was like $25. These are trips to Belize and Aruba and wherever. She had to say that she paid for them, or she is on the hook for some serious violations.
Is there an actual criminal consequence for Fani Willis? By the way, we're talking with George Brauchler, former district attorney, who's running now for district attorney in Judicial District 23. Is there a criminal aspect to this for Fani Willis?
There sure could be. One is in the form of perjury. As you know, she declared this relationship didn't begin until a certain date and time. But as you guys pointed out with Chris, one of her former buddies from the office, who may have an axe to grind, I don't know, came in and said, no, they were romantic way before that. perjury could put her on the hook. If she took campaign cash and used it for her own personal gain, that could be its own crime in addition to a campaign finance violation. There are a couple different things here that could be a criminal issue for her.
Wow.
And besides, though, I mean, we have to understand where she comes from. I mean, who doesn't keep thousands of dollars in your house?
Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, well, just because you need to go on dates. That was the thing. Is remember she had to have the cash because she's dating. Now she doesn't date as much right now, but I just want to know how often she's going to the fort, places like where Jeff is going all the time. Jeez.
Well, yeah, Jeff, are you paying cash tonight?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, from my campaigns.
Yes, exactly.
So she the places they choose too, right? Like she's like, I was with him as my companion. I'm like, you take a companion to a ball game.
Yes.
You take a companion maybe to a conference in Detroit. You don't take a companion to Belize and Aruba and on 2 cruises. That seems sketchy.
Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, imagine if in any office space there were people that were working, and I understand that maybe or maybe not Wade was working at the office at the time, but the idea being, we are now co-workers, and we're going to go, just for fun together to Belize. Everybody in the office is going to be talking. They know what's going on. You're exactly right. You don't do that if there's not something else layered inside of it.
I also wonder, though, how many people on her staff, when she said, I'm hiring the guy who was a municipal judge that only governed traffic cases to handle the biggest case this office has ever handled, maybe the biggest case in the country. I wonder how many people she has on her staff that can do the emperor has no clothes thing and say, what are you doing?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I have been sitting here behind the scenes go, what the hell is going on here? Because regardless of the relationship, the man that she put in charge has zero experience. And I'm just wondering if, I mean, George, just between you and me, I'm wondering if maybe Fani had possibly called our attorney general, a friend of the show, and asked, hey, how do I go about hiring wildly inexperienced people on some of the highest profile cases to put them in court? Because it seems like she's following the lead of something. Okay, maybe I'm taking us in a direction we shouldn't, but how did that happen?
The only other, I don't think it does in a legitimate office. I mean, when you hire an inexperienced person to run a DA's office or a political person, you get decisions like this. We saw that, as you pointed out, with Phil in the AG's office. This case is of such significance that the elected district attorney has to be a part of it. If you're going to accuse the former and would-be future president of the United States of felonies that could result in the loss of his liberty, you have to be in the courtroom every single day as the tip of the spear. That's what you see here in the metro area you used to with elected DAs. The biggest murder cases, they'd be on them. The cases with the most media attention and corruption potential, they would be on those cases. This is one I can't explain. You don't hire someone from the outside to come manage it while you, I guess, go with them on a lavish vacation to the Caribbean.
Obviously.
We're talking about George Brauchler, former district attorney running for district attorney in Judicial District 23. How did Trump's attorneys do yesterday?
Well, listen, if I was going to critique them, I'd say they did okay. They did B+ work but some of it they don't get credit for. Fani Willis brought their best evidence to the witness stand, right? Like you just can't prepare for something like that. She sat up there, pulled the pin on her own grenade, and then exploded all over the courtroom. I thought they asked good questions. My concern as the adjunct professor for 20+ years at DU is they didn't control her more using leading questions. Now, she may have proven herself to be uncontrollable. That could have been there. But they asked a lot of open-ended questions, and I wouldn't have approached it that way. I would have been much more leading and commanding.
Can you explain that a little bit? I mean, just saying, in that situation, what do you mean by asking the leading questions? How do you feel that it could have been handled a little bit better?
Yeah, so when you're on cross-examination, and that's what's going on here, you have the ability to ask leading questions. And a lot of folks, including half the judges on the bench, don't know what a leading question is. A leading question is one that suggests the answer in the question. So for instance, if I said, hey, Jeff, do you know what time it is? You could say yes or no, but that doesn't make it leading. If I say, Jeff, you know what time it is, don't you? That's a leading question because you suggest the answer in the form of the question. So when they ask them, if you go back and watch this, there are a lot of open-ended questions like, did you, how would you, when did you? That's not leading. Those are all like, go run for the end zone with your answer. And that's what Fani Willis did.
Leading questions are ones, one fact questions where you suggest the answer and you tell her, you met Wade at this time. Your relationship, you claim, started at this time. You spent money, that kind of thing. Now, as she runs, you bring her back by saying, did you understand my question? You re-ask it in the exact form you did 2 minutes before she started answering, and you make the point to the judge and to the world watching, this person refuses to answer the question that's asked, and it's a credibility killer. By the way, in addition to the substance of her answers, which were just simply incredible.
Excellent. Thank you.
Talking with George Brauchler, former district attorney, running for district attorney in Judicial District 23 about the Fani Willis case. George, we really appreciate you being on the show. Are you going to take applications to be a special agent and get paid in cash in Judicial District 23? And where can people apply?
As the DA, I don't think I would offer that perk, but if there's other offices out there that are looking to hire someone for cash to both prosecute cases and go to the Caribbean, I'm your huckleberry.
It is sad and yet comical all at the same time. George, we really appreciate you being on the show. Thanks again, brother.
Gentlemen, thank you, by the way, for suffering through my technical issues, including my outburst, which I hope you dump button right off.
No, you know me well enough. There's no way I dump that.
It was just one of those things where I'm like, come on.
We will be hosting George and Dagny for a debate up here soon. So we're working through scheduling that, his opponent in the primary for Judicial District 23. So a lot more conversation to have, but as these cases move forward, we'll continue to check in with you, George. Thank you again for being on the program.
Awesome. Talk to you guys soon.
All right. So what did you think of the Fani Willis case yesterday? Is it time for this whole case to move on? Was this all just political theater, prosecuting Donald Trump for RICO? And clearly she was, taking money, enriching herself, enriching her lovers or her lover with this. And this whole thing is a facade simply targeted to bring down a political opponent. Are you proud that Republicans kind of started finally fighting back? I mean, if they're going to go after people's personal lives, Democrats are going to go after Republicans' personal lives and try to destroy them personally, as they're doing with Donald Trump, especially in New York. Is it fair for the attorneys on the other side, Trump's attorneys, to make Fani Willis talk about her love life on national television for 6 hours and embarrass her there? Or is this just a continued decline of America? I'd love to hear from you. 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the 710 KNUS app. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadye, and here are the top stories we're following. The Biden administration is looking to expand student loan forgiveness for those facing hardship. In New York, Haley Bianco has more.
Americans who are struggling to repay federal student loans because of financial hardship could get some of their debt canceled under President Joe Biden's latest attempt at forgiveness. Several categories of borrowers are being targeted for relief under Biden's second try at widespread cancellation after the Supreme Court rejected his first plan last year. The Education Department is expanding its proposal to include those who face financial hardship. The plan was expanded amid pressure from advocates who said the proposal didn't do enough for struggling borrowers. Whether any of the relief will materialize is a looming question, as conservatives vow to challenge any attempt at loan cancellation.
The fatal shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Victory Parade has revived America's debate over gun laws. Survivors of previous mass shootings, including the Las Vegas massacre and attacks in Nashville, Colorado Springs, and Buffalo, have called for a federal ban on assault weapons. The survivors, some of whom are gun owners, have thrown their support behind the proposed Go Safe Act. The legislation would effectively ban gas-powered semi-automatic firearms and large-capacity magazines. The bill targets the kind of weapons behind 9 of the 10 deadliest shootings since 2016. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadye in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
Text messages pouring in about the Fani Willis case yesterday, the disaster, the dumpster fire that was there. Fun to hear George again. He's quite a character. That's exactly right.
He is.
Joan texted a picture of her dog, I think, which is named Willis. That is sad that Fani Willis is not on the stand again today because it did provide some entertaining television yesterday.
Thanks, Joan.
The self-destruction of Fani Willis will go down in history. And, you know, what this means for the case is really up for discussion. As George mentioned, they could appoint another prosecutor to continue with this case, or they could look at all the evidence like some DAs have said, and, you know, there's not a case here that they think is winnable. And so they're going to withdraw it. But if you remember, this was the case that got Donald Trump's mugshot. This was the case that did it. And yesterday, Fani Willis just historically imploded on stage, sounded like Pablo Escobar with hordes of cash hidden around her house, paying lovers or a lover with cash, taking trips with him, all on taxpayer dimes. So I'm going to go back to this.
Did you get a little bit of Donald Trump merch when he did the mugshot thing?
I need to. I haven't gotten that.
You haven't?
I should get.
That was a big industry.
Should get a nice mug with his mugshot on here. By the way, this was Fani Willis running for office a few years prior to yesterday.
Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children. Because we deserve better.
So, what is with that office? Because she basically violated both of those.
Exactly. I can't believe that she. And again, politicians, you go out there and you say, "Hey, I'm not going to do this," and then you do it.
Right.
She knew what she had said. She had made that
I think
statement,
she had
and then
definitely forgotten that. Knowing most of my politicians, they think about 5 minutes, in 5-minute increments.
That's fair.
I
So they're goldfish. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I kid. I jest. If you're a politician listening, and if you are, let us know, and I will try to talk slower.
I'm going to change direction here a little bit because I'd love to get your take. Feel free to give us a call, 303-696-1971 on this. 13-year-old boy charged with first-degree murder in Denver RTD bus shooting. A 13-year-old, Denver Post reporting, a 13-year-old boy fatally shot a man on an RTD bus in Denver seconds after the man approached him in the back of the bus, according to an arrest David released Thursday, and has now been charged with first-degree murder. Richard Sanchez, 60 years old, was shot multiple times after a confrontation with 3 juveniles on a bus near South Federal Boulevard and West Mississippi Avenue on the evening of January 27th. Police initially reported the boy shot Sanchez during a verbal exchange about Sanchez's leg blocking the aisle. The heavily redacted affidavit gives further details about the encounter, which lasted less than 2 minutes. Sometimes those verbal altercations are just not worth it. Lasted 2 minutes from when the juveniles boarded the bus, according to surveillance video transcripts. The 3 juveniles boarded the bus at 6:37 p.m., walked down the aisle past Sanchez, whose leg was extended into the aisle. They stepped or jumped over his leg, according to the affidavit. Witnesses told police words were exchanged with the juvenile while the group attempted to walk past Sanchez. Just over a minute later, Sanchez walked towards the back of the bus and stepped onto a raised platform facing the boy. Witnesses told the police there was a verbal altercation at that time. 4 seconds later, the boy reached into his sweatshirt, drew a handgun, aimed it at Sanchez, and fired 7 times. 13 years old. Fired 7 times, according to the. I have a 13-year-old son. Sanchez collapsed backwards on the floor near the rear door, and the 3 juveniles exited the bus. One of the other juveniles appeared to point a handgun at Sanchez and step over him as they exited, and the 13-year-old boy also stepped over Sanchez and out the back door, the affidavit states. Sanchez was pronounced dead at Denver Health later that night. The 13-year-old was arrested February 1st and is facing 14 charges, including first-degree murder, according to the Denver District Attorney's Office. The boy is also charged with assault, endangering a public transport crew, and possessing a gun as a juvenile. Prosecutors have not determined whether they will seek to move the case to adult court, the District Attorney's Office said this week. Here's my question to you, Bill. It's a 13-year-old boy.
Yeah.
Now, my son has gotten in trouble before, and I've had to take him to school and meet with teachers on, things that have happened. 13-year-old boys do that. And I took some responsibility as a parent for the way my 13-year-old son had acted. Do the parents need to be charged in this?
I would agree so. Yeah, I would think that they need to. And again, it kind of refers back to some of our conversation earlier this week about the Kansas City shooting. I believe that just based on empirical evidence, I can make the case we're not handling our firearms very well.
Yeah.
And
if a 13-year-old has one.
Yeah.
A 13-year-old.
Exactly. And something needs to change. I don't want to take away either the Second Amendment or guns, but I need help understanding what the solution needs to be, because the status quo is not acceptable. And if you do, please give me a call, 303-696-1971. Explain to me why the status quo is acceptable.
In this case, he was already breaking the law.
Yes,
he shouldn't
absolutely.
have had. What other law are you going to write? They already wrote a law that said no 13-year-old should have a handgun. And he was like, whatever.
Yeah. So if this law doesn't work, then what would be the solution?
Right.
What should we do? And that's what I want to ask. I have my own ideas. I don't want to get into them necessarily now because it'll take us in a different direction. But if the law that prevents this doesn't work and this still happens, what do we do? Yeah, I do agree that we should hold the parents responsible, but I'm not sure that's enough. I'm going to talk to the phones.
Yeah, phone lines are starting to fill up. 303-696-1971. What I love about this show is you are invited into the conversation here. 13-year-old shoots a man 7 times. First of all, how does he get the gun? And whoever gave it to him should absolutely be held accountable for this. But you saw this out of Michigan, too, where the parents of these school shooters are now starting to get charged. Is there a role and responsibility for parents in the midst of this? Obviously, they failed. Obviously, they failed. Your 13-year-old gets a hold of a gun and shoots a man 7 times over a verbal altercation. You have failed as a parent. And when my kids get in trouble in school or for something like that, and I have to show up to deal with it, it's something that I have to take responsibility for. And I need to address as a parent. Let's go to Joshua, Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, fellas. How are you?
We're great.
Morning.
What do you think of this case?
Man, I tell you what, I'm ready for summer. I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely ready for summer. So here's how I feel. I'm a father of 2. I've got a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old. I get it, right? But however, you have to look at where these kids. They didn't release the names of the juveniles yet, right? Are they?
No names, no demographic information.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to take into account, more than likely, these kids are trying to be gangbangers in a bad scenario, in a bad situation with where they're growing up with. Do I believe the parents should be held accountable for something like this? Yes and no. We have teenagers that do things that we have no idea what they're doing, right? How did this kid get this gun? That's the question. I am a Second Amendment true believer patriot, trust me, okay? But how did this kid get this gun? Did he get it from a criminal? Was it the parent's gun that was not locked up and kept safe, right? Those are questions that need to be answered. If this kid acted on his own, that's going to break those parents' heart, number one. And number two, if he's trying to prove himself in some sort of a gang, whatever, he's going to now he's got his his stripes, his tattoos and his stripes, to go to prison, spend several years in prison, come out, and because they're not going to prosecute these kids anymore, they're not going to do anything. That Denver just sucks anymore. So, you know what? Who do you hold accountable? Do you hold accountable the parents, or now do we start holding accountable our justice system here in Denver? Do we start holding the mayor accountable for a lot of the things that are happening? Do we start holding the governor together for a lot of these things that are happening? My point is, if you have teenagers with guns, number one, how did he get a gun? Okay, we all know that criminals don't follow laws, correct? So did he get it from some other person? Is it a stolen pistol, or is it a stolen handgun, or is it a stolen rifle? Whatever he used, right? How did he obtain that weapon? And then number two, if it was owned by those parents, then yes, absolutely, those parents should be held accountable because they allowed their child. They did not have their firearm locked up properly. If he did not get that firearm from his parents, then no, I don't think the parents should be held accountable because how are they going to know exactly what their kids are doing? We don't know what our kids are doing 24 hours a day. It's our responsibility as adults and as parents to teach morals, ethics, code of honor, just good things to our children. And if they don't know that, then how do you hold a parent accountable for that if the parent doesn't even know that?
Oh, that's interesting,
That's
Joshua. I like what you're saying. One thing I just want to add to the conversation. Remember, the liberals in the state of Colorado right now want to take criminals like this, alleged criminals, well, we don't have the law things, so the alleged criminals like this, and give them a hug. They don't want them to spend time behind bars. They want them to go to meetings because we have to understand them. So that's another layer as far as not wanting to hold these kids responsible.
And so then what happens to when people like me, I'm also a veteran, a special forces veteran as well, combat tours overseas, 14 years in the military, fire department, everything else that I've done. You have guys like myself who are combat ready to go right now today that are sitting back going, what the hell is going on in our country right now? And guys like me, like who is that Marine that choked out that one guy on the subway?
Yeah.
And now he's being prosecuted for that? Right. You have guys like me that don't back the blue anymore. I do not trust our police officers anymore. I don't like where they're at. I don't like the fact that they're following orders anymore. And this right here shows you exactly what's going to happen. Is this kid's going to get let out of jail? He's going to do it again until somebody like myself or they run into somebody like-minded, like the rest of the Patriots are. They're going to take matters into their own hands because we're going to support and defend the Constitution. But also, we're also going to make sure that my family is safe, my property is safe, my neighbor and my brothers are safe.
Now,
right?
Joshua,
now you have the vigilantism that's happening.
Now,
Thanks for your time, guys.
Oh, no, thanks for the call. Joshua, I got a question for you. I got something just to make this more complicated because you talk about the idea that because that's kind of my thing. You're talking about if he got the gun from the parents. So I want to say, okay, let's say that he didn't. Let's say that he did get it through crime or from a friend, etc. Maybe he stored it inside of the house. Maybe he didn't. But is then the get out of jail free card for parents or families to just wash their hands of the kids and say, if I don't know anything about what my kid is doing, you then can't hold me responsible. Is that then a get out of jail free card?
That's a slippery slope.
Right? I know, isn't it?
I mean, the kid's 13 years old. He's supposed to have parental guidance. Now, we all know life happens, right? We have, single mothers, single fathers out there. I'm a single dad, right?
Yeah.
So I have to take full responsibility of where my kids are at all the time, but I'm also a responsible parent. So if these parents don't give a crap about where their kids are at and they're just letting them run around feral on the streets, where are they going to turn to, right? It's up to the parent to show them that. And if the parent's just working all the time because this economy sucks, and they got 5 jobs to pay for $400 worth of groceries, right? What ends up happening? You are now seeing the decline and the demise of society especially the state of Colorado, where I was born and raised, went to high school, stationed here, everything else here. And I remember when this state was a full-on conservative red state.
Yep, I do.
And none of this ever happened.
Joshua, really appreciate the call. Joshua from Denver. Melissa, we're going to get to you in just a second. Joshua's line's open, 303-696-1971. Give us a call. Tell us what you think about this 13-year-old charged with first-degree murder in a Denver RTD bus shooting, shoots the guy 7 times. Are the parents to be held accountable? How does a 13-year-old get a gun? And if they had nothing to do with him getting the gun, he stole it from somebody or got it from someone else, is that let them off the hook? Love to hear from you. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
That was good. I like those intros. That was fun.
They're wonderful.
Jeff and Bill here. Text message is blowing up. It used to be parents that were responsible for children. I think that may have changed. Who's responsible for kids? Government, schools, teachers unions, Planned Parenthood. Charge them. Talking about this case, a 13-year-old boy charged with first-degree murder in a Denver RTD bus shooting. Dispute happens with a 67-year-old man, and he shoots him 7 times. Most conservatives fail to understand that a huge number of kids aren't actually parented. We are now in a second generation of a large number of kids who didn't have 2 parents and who weren't parented with traditional values, morals, or ethics. Regular public school administrator. Thank you, Lori. Children are being raised in single-family homes, women with no men, to show these young boys how to act, how to behave, how to be men. Let's go to Melissa, line 2. You're on the Jeff and Bill show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Yeah, good morning. It doesn't look like it would have helped in this case, but I was thinking, wouldn't a curfew just be a no-brainer? Because then you could at least keep track of the kids that, you know, like if they're habitually out in the middle of the night. I mean, Trayvon Martin should not have been out at 1 o'clock in the morning. He never would have been killed had he been home in bed.
Yeah, this was at 6:37 p.m., but curfew would definitely keep those kids out there. What do you think about getting a gun, though? If they stole it from their parents, or even if he stole it from somebody else, do you think the parents should be held accountable in this case?
Well, look at the 6-year-old that shot his teacher, and you heard what he said after he shot her. I killed that bitch. I mean, what is he hearing at home? What in his heart made him want to shoot her, let alone, you know, getting the gun?
Yeah. It's sad what's happening to these. So what these kids? So what do you think should happen to the parents in this case? Do you think they should be charged with negligence, assisting in the murder?
Absolutely. There should be an investigation on where he got it and into the home life. I mean, didn't we used to have people that would keep track of kids that had a trouble home life, you know, and they go over and visit and make sure everything is okay?
Yeah. There used to be.
Unfortunately, part of it, just on a side note, part of that office was headed by someone that was the girlfriend of the Aurora police chief and decided to make things personally with friend of the show, Danielle Jurinsky. So sometimes the person in charge was using it in ways they shouldn't. And that now
diverted to migrants now.
Yeah. Now, Melissa, do you think that a curfew would be effective? And if so, where do you think that line is drawn? Do we do a 10, 11 o'clock, midnight? And then what is the age for the curfew?
I would say 16 and under, kind of like, you know, like the club laws. I mean, maybe midnight, even though I hear some clubs are all night, 16 and up, but 16 and under makes sense to me. If you can't drive, what are you doing out?
Excellent point.
Thanks, Melissa. Appreciate the call. Text message here. Don't let the parents off the hook. The parents need to know what their kids are doing. You can't be with them 24/7, but you sure can pay attention to what they are doing and who they are running around with. So again, 13-year-old boy charged with first-degree murder in Denver RTD bus shooting. The encounter lasted less than 2 minutes, and he shot the man 7 times. Is it time for parents to be held accountable for this type of stuff? Curfew. This gets a little personal for me because I remember I got busted for curfew. And I was so angry about the unconstitutionality of curfew that I grabbed
Of course you would be.
I was in 8th grade, grabbed my pocket constitution, went to the Cherry Hills city council meeting and argued along the lines with my friends at the ACLU that I have the freedom to assembly and I don't get my constitutional rights when I turn 18.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Of course you would do that. That is fantastic. Did you win?
No. In fact, I didn't. And my parents were not happy. I was going to go, I'm going to fight this at the court. I'm not going to abide. I'm going to plead not guilty. And my parents are like, give me the ticket. So I'm going to pay this.
So that's where you went wrong.
Yeah.
That was
I should have gone all the way. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
Nine a.m. on Friday, February 16th in the Mile High City. Good morning to you all. Thanks for joining the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Bill.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. One more hour to go.
We've had a wonderful conversation. Everything from Mike Johnston heading out to the Super Bowl after complaining about debt issues.
Yeah, we're both mad
in
we
the
weren't
city
invited.
of Denver. That's right.
Yeah.
Chris Murray joined us in the 7 a.m. hour to talk the Fani Willis case and the implications there. George Brauchler told us how he will mimic a lot of Fani Willis in paying agents in cash so they can hide it around their house and take trips, romantic trips.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I will be one of those agents because I need a fat government check. Really, really need that.
George joined us in the 8 o'clock hour. And just coming up here soon is going to be Jimmy Sengenberger. His final show is tomorrow, and he's going to give us a preview on that. But let's get to the news with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning, Jeff. 28 and cloudy in Denver with some snow out there. Highs in the low 30s today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story, the University of Colorado Springs campus is closed for the day after reports of shots fired placed it in lockdown. Police say a homicide investigation is underway and at least one person is dead. The Colorado Springs Police Department said it is not an active shooter situation. Students were initially asked to shelter in place. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny is dead at the age of 47.
Navalny led protests against the Kremlin for more than a decade, even daring to run against Putin. Back in 2020, he fell ill from a military nerve agent poisoned, he said, on the direct orders of Vladimir Putin. He was sentenced last August to a maximum security penal colony on charges of extremism. The Interfax news agency says Navalny passed away after going on a short walk, with efforts to revive him unsuccessful. I'm Michael Kastner.
Fani Willis will not take the witness stand again today. Prosecutors made the decision this morning after Fulton County District Attorney, she gave a combative testimony while being pressed about cash and vacations she took with Donald Trump. Prosecutor Nathan Wade, the hearing will determine whether Willis should be tossed from Trump's Georgia election case because of misconduct surrounding their romantic relationship. A verdict is likely today in the New York civil fraud case involving former President Trump's business. And Taylor Swift is donating to the family of the woman killed in Wednesday's shooting at the Kansas City Victory Rally. The singer-songwriter donated $100,000 to the GoFundMe setup for the family of Lisa Lopez Galvin, a local radio DJ. All right, the Avalanche lose to the Lightning last night. CU falls to UCLA in college basketball, 25 in Lafayette, 26 in Littleton, and 28 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue with the final hour. TGIF, have a great weekend. Stay tuned. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
In light of that breaking news of shooting happening down at UCCS, we're also talking this 13-year-old boy charged with first-degree murder in Denver for the RTD bus shooting that took place at the end of January. 13-year-old shoots a 60-year-old 7 times in the chest. Our question to you, the listeners, is whether or not the parents are to be held responsible for this. A lot of text messaging coming in. Parents of 13-year-olds need to keep tabs. If the gun comes from their home, which I doubt, then hold them accountable. If they are just letting their kids run feral or if they know their kids have been involved with wrongdoing, then definitely hold them accountable. If it's a one-off, which I doubt, based on the facts released, then charging the parents is questionable. Rod from Littleton, thank you. Police time is limited commodity. I would rather them enforcing laws than necessary curfew laws.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, curfews always had in Colorado has always been 9 o'clock. I don't know if that's true. I think it is midnight. As someone who's been busted for a curfew when he was younger, it wasn't 9 o'clock. I was out way past that. So let us know what you think. Should the parents be held accountable? 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971 or text us on the 710 KNUS app. Let's go to Jimmy Sengenberger on the VIP line. Jimmy's got his final show this week on 710 KNUS tomorrow morning. Jimmy, welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so give us a preview of what tomorrow's going to look like.
You know, it's a big day, a very special day. I've been doing this show for almost 10 and a half years on KNUS, and really my time goes back to May 8th, 2011. I graduated from Regis University. It was Mother's Day, and my mom was like, okay, you can go fill in on KNUS. I won't be hurt. So it was a great day, a jam-packed day, and we did celebrate Mother's Day and mix it all together. But now, after all those years, I'm saying so long tomorrow. As my great-grandma Lou would say, it's so long, not goodbye. And look, tomorrow is going to be a very exciting show. We've got a number of tremendous radio luminaries coming on. Our former colleague, Stephen Tubbs, will be back on the program to chat for a bit. Peter Boyles, of course, his show comes up after mine, so he'll be coming in studio. And I am very excited as well to have the legendary Mike Rosen joining me on the program at 8:30 tomorrow morning. We actually go a ways back. He gave me my first radio interview when I was 17, and I was just getting involved in Liberty Day Institute, which you guys know I ran, eventually would run. I was a teenage volunteer at the time, plus my good friend, entertainer Jimmy Viles will join the program. Syndicated columnist Ruben Navarrete, who's just tremendous, will be on, and we'll be taking listener calls and looking back at the last decade plus of the Jimmy Sengenberger Show.
Oh, that's amazing.
Jimmy's on the line with us, the host of the Jimmy Sengenberger Show, broadcasts Saturdays on 710 KNUS from 7 to 10 a.m. Jimmy, over a decade of work, what have you learned in those 10 years?
You know, I have learned how people really approach issues can vary dramatically, even when you're on a conservative talk station. The number of listener calls, and I know you guys know this well yourselves too, the number of listener calls that will give you a hard time and be like, Jimmy, what the heck are you saying this morning? But then the next week or a couple weeks later, they'll call back in and it's, Jimmy, good going. Thanks for taking that position. You know, there is that variety, which is something I think that is really unique. But then you also learn really what I call the art and the science of the interview. I've conducted thousands of interviews over the years with hundreds of different people. And you learn really how to pick up on cues, when to jump in, when not to jump in, when to push back or when to be a little lighter, how to handle those sensitive interviews and how to handle those big ticket things where you're like, okay, this one, you really got to bring it. And I think to me, that's one of the great things that I'll remember. And then, of course, you learn the fact that your show does have the best bumper music known to man and continues to reign supreme into tomorrow and, frankly, into perpetuity, guys.
Yes, it does.
I remember you filling in one time and the bumper music did not turn on. There was a failure with the computer and you just grabbed your harmonica and started playing away. So we could have had live bumper music all the time.
You know, improvisation is key on radio, and sometimes it pays to bring your harps in every time you're on the air.
You've also played at the Western Conservative Summit over the years. You've been a great guest there, introduced a number of our speakers. Let's go to some of the most memorable folks you've interviewed. I mean, everybody, Jimmy, from Mark Cuban to I think Judge Janine, all those folks. Who sticks out in your mind as one of the most memorable interviews you've ever had?
Gosh, this is really hard. You mentioned Mark Cuban. That was technically for a web show I hosted with the Washington Examiner, Jimmy at the Crossroads, but it was also aired on KNUS, and this was in 2020. And I'll just say about that, it was a fun debate where I was proven right in April of 2020 in retrospect, and Mark Cuban was clearly proven wrong. But with that said...
You're not bragging or anything. No.
No, not at all.
Yeah, you should get that made on a t-shirt.
It was a lot of fun, though, watching him, especially with the visual and seeing each other as we were just hashing things out. That was great. But honestly, it's hard to tell with so many interviews that you do. A couple particularly stand out. Actually, I'll give you three. One, 2014, within the first year of the Jimmy Sengenberger show. I had the opportunity to go down and be the only radio host to cover the Weekly Standard Summit down at the Broadmoor, when the Weekly Standard was still a thing and still prominent on the right. And I interviewed a slew of guests in person. One of them was the late, great Charles Krauthammer. And Kelly Michaels, our program director, was in the room, and so he can vouch for this. The end of the interview, he said to me, that was one of the best interviews I've ever done. And then he added, maybe it's your youth. But it was just tremendous. And then later on, I got to, and this ties in with the Western Conservative Summit, foster a real friendship with the late Judge Ken Starr, of course, the special counsel during the independent counsel during the 1990s with the Clinton investigation. And I met him at one of those Weekly Standard Summits, actually, and had him on my program a number of times. And one of the great highlights, the morning that I hosted, Bill, you'll remember this, Business for Breakfast.
Yeah.
He came in studio and we had a great time doing a conversation over there on Salem's old business station. And then later that afternoon at the Western Conservative Summit, I interviewed him on stage, which I think was his request too, Jeff, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
And he was just tremendous. And the third one that I'll remember, and I'm going to play a clip of the song from one of the songs tomorrow morning, was two-time Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Richie Furay of Buffalo, Springfield, and Poco, who came in studio for 3 hours and we jammed live on the air, including the great protest song For What It's Worth, which we will play tomorrow. So those are three excellent interview memories for me.
That is so cool. So Jimmy Sengenberger, the show, the final Jimmy Sengenberger, at least on Saturday mornings right now, 7 to 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can tune in. He's got a whole host of guides, of guests. And then you did a special video shoot with Peter Boyles. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was really pleased to have an opportunity to go on the shoot with Peter, which is up now at 710 KNUS YouTube channel, and to really talk about radio and get into some of my history, going back to being a kid, listening to Rush Limbaugh and getting inspired into radio, on to riding my bike to and from high school, listening to KNUS, to starting in college and everything after that. But it really was a great chance for two radio guys to sit and just chat over what radio is like, how it's changed, some of the key dynamics, and some different issues. So that was really fun. Definitely go and check that out.
We will absolutely. So 710 KNUS, you can also find it under the Peter Boyles tab online or find it at the 710 KNUS YouTube channel. Jimmy, pulling back the curtain and giving us all the warts and his insight on radio. Now, I do want to talk to you about your insight on radio, Jimmy. One is, first, I'd like you to address when you first turned on the microphone all those years back, 10 years ago, what surprised you the most? What was the thing that you didn't know about radio? And then I would love to have you comment about the state of radio today and what do you think the positives and the negatives are that are happening inside of our industry?
That's interesting. Two questions. The first one, gosh. So we're talking when I first went on for the Jimmy Sengenberger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Show,
yes.
Right? I think one of the biggest things that would surprise me is how you have to structure a consistent program. It's hard to explain. You guys would get this, but when you are doing one-off shows filling in like I did, or if you're doing college radio where there's no structure to it and you're just kind of taking a break and you're spinning blues tunes because you don't have commercials, it's very different from when you have a weekly show. So you're trying to figure out, okay, what are the themes that you want to hit on? What's the persona or the brand that you're going for the program, not just you being your authentic self? And then also it's making sure that you are hitting on variety and figuring out, okay, what can you do to spice things up so it's not just consistent, it's not the same thing every time. I think those are a few things that at least come to my mind. And working within a show clock. And at the time, guys, I had hard breaks. And for years and years, I only had hard breaks. And that was 4 segments an hour hard breaks, which was very difficult to figure out, okay, how do you manage that? As for the industry today, I actually have my Gazette column, rather than running today in the Denver Gazette, will run on Sunday. And it talks a bit about radio and talk radio and what the business is like and so forth, and looking back as well. And I think, to me, one of the important things to keep in mind, that radio really needs to assess, is this anger that we see consistently, the temperature. And I understand there's a lot of reasoning behind why people are angry and frustrated. I get that way too, especially in this environment. But especially if you want to bring in younger demographics, you got to have some fun. You got to spice things up. You can't just constantly be angry all the time, as we all too often hear angertainment. I know Peter has talked about this. I think it's a very important point, because one of the things that I've at least prided myself in doing with the Jimmy Sengenberger Show has been having fun, bringing an uplifting, positive attitude onto the airwaves, whether it's through the best bumper music known to man or the way that you engage or interact with the guests as I have. It really is important to bring something entertaining, fun, and vibrant, not just let me get into the issues of the day and talk about why things are so darn bad. You got to bring a little levity to it. And I think that's lacking right now.
God, and that's why we are going to miss you so much. This is hard, because Jimmy and I have worked together behind the scenes on the Business for Breakfast. And so there's a camaraderie. There's a friendship. There's something really unique. And I've got something really special in my heart for Jimmy, and to have him step away from the family for a while. I am still going to be pounding you, sir, this entire summer about when you're coming back and going to rejoin the family. I do want to have you back, and hopefully you can join us as a guest from time to time too. But yeah, I'm going to miss you.
I am going to ask Jimmy if he can reveal at all what he's going to be doing, but just in a second, I want to talk to you first about eliminating the stress and uncertainty of selling your home while still getting top dollar with Gay Ribble and Empower Home Team with Keller Williams Sell. Their Sell with Certainty program guarantees your home will sell without even having to list it, and at the same time getting you top dollar. Gay Ribble and Empower Home Team guarantees the sale, ensuring a seamless process and eliminating the stress while getting you the best price. Get paid twice with their Sell with Certainty program. Give Gay Ribble and Empower Home Team a call today at 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD. Jimmy, can you tell us at all what the future is going to look like, or do we have to tune in tomorrow?
Well, we will see how the future unfolds. As Yoda would say, always in motion, the future is. So we shall see where things go. I think my Yoda is a little better than Polis, by the way.
Oh, much better.
We'll see what happens. I have some things cooking, some independent media projects in the works. And, of course, I'll be continuing the Denver Gazette columns that usually at least run every Tuesday and Friday, delving into depth on issues, exposing things that others aren't exposing. Because right now we are in, guys, a political environment in Colorado where the Democrats have complete and utter control of the situation. And it is disheartening, to say the least. And so what we can do is spotlight these stories, different things that are going on, and make sure, using our media platforms, whatever they are, that people are learning things that they otherwise wouldn't know about, because that kind of exposure is what is necessary, not just for the right to make any gains, but for accountable government, which is what it's really all about.
Some text messages coming in. Will Jimmy ever sub for radio shows, or is he done? I think we're planning to have you sub when you can, right?
We shall see. I do not look at radio as being in the past.
Yeah,
there is more to come with radio for me, for sure.
Jimmy, you will be missed. I really enjoy catching your show on Saturday mornings. 4944 5311. Well, Jacqueline here. Jimmy introduced me to jazz, and I'm really going to miss the guy. So you got it. You launched a new jazz fan.
You know, when you have blues, jazz, classic rock all mixed together, it makes for a real good time, let me tell you.
Yeah, it does.
I want to ask Jimmy what his newest column is going to be, and feel free to give us a call if you want to talk to Jimmy. 303-696-1971. 303-696-1971, or text a farewell wish to Jimmy on the 710 KNUS app. But I got to tell you about Mitch Floria, who's a wonderful American. Jimmy, did you ever go out and meet with Mitch?
No, I did not, unfortunately.
So Mitch, he's at the Art of Granite. This guy loves this country. He came from Romania, And he has copies of the Constitution Declaration right next to his office there. When it comes to creating the perfect kitchen or bathroom countertop, it's all about understanding the client's needs and personal style. That's why communication is key. Mitch Floria is the master craftsman with the art of granite and works with his team of highly skilled craftsmen, each with their own unique experience to help bring your vision to life. From single residential installations to large-scale projects, Mitch and his team at the Art of Granite will listen to you and get you what you need. Mitch provides granite, marble, quartz, and other materials from his own warehouse in Denver West at wholesale prices with no markup, so you can get the most for your budget. Absolutely stunning showroom. Great to see everything that he has there. Go check him out. Mention KNUS and receive a bathroom countertop free with the purchase of your fantastic new kitchen countertops, or get kitchen and bathroom sink free with the purchase of any countertop package. Schedule a consultation with Mitch and visit his beautiful showroom in Denver West, or call Mitch at 303-386-5919. That's 303-386-5919. Or you can visit his website at theartofgranite.com to start dreaming about your new countertops. That's theartofgranite.com. So we'll continue this conversation with Jimmy. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour in Brussels, I'm Alex Cadye, and here are the top stories we're following. The Biden administration is looking to expand student loan forgiveness for those facing hardship. In New York, Haley Bianco has more.
Americans who are struggling to repay federal student loans because of financial hardship could get some of their debt canceled under President Joe Biden's latest attempt at forgiveness. Several categories of borrowers are being targeted for relief under Biden's second try at widespread cancellation after the Supreme Court rejected his first plan last year. The Education Department is expanding its proposal to include those who face financial hardship. The plan was expanded amid pressure from advocates who said the proposal didn't do enough for struggling borrowers. Whether any of the relief will materialize is a looming question, as conservatives vow to challenge any attempt at loan cancellation.
The fatal shooting at the Kansas City Chiefs Victory Parade has revived America's debate over gun laws. Survivors of previous mass shootings, including the Las Vegas massacre and attacks in Nashville, Colorado Springs, and Buffalo, have called for a federal ban on assault weapons. The survivors, some of whom are gun owners, have thrown their support behind the proposed Go Safe Act. The legislation would effectively ban gas-powered semi-automatic firearms and large-capacity magazines. The bill targets the kind of weapons behind 9 of the 10 deadliest shootings since 2016. And that's what you need to know at this hour. I'm Alex Cadye in Brussels on Salem News Channel.
Good morning in the Mile High City, 9:27, Friday,
Morning.
February 16th. We got Jimmy Sengenberger on. He's got his final show tomorrow, the Jimmy Sengenberger Show on 710 KNUS from 7 to 10 a.m. Jimmy, you also work as an investigative journalist and columnist for the Denver Gazette. What's something that you work?
He just left us. I'm taking it personal. So now he wants to call back in. Sure. Now he wants back on the show.
Let's see what Jimmy's working on for his latest column on the Denver Gazette. Jimmy, can you give us some insight into what you're doing now?
Yeah, I lost you for a second. Can you actually repeat the question?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Tell us about your next article. You're coming out. You're an investigative journalist and columnist with the Denver Gazette. What are you working on that we might be able to get a sneak peek on for the Denver Gazette?
So this Sunday's column, I mentioned it before, will be more of a reflection on radio, where it's at, looking at the business as it is. But there are several stories that I'm covering and digging into for forthcoming columns. They include more on this question that folks are still wondering about. We talked about it on Monday a little bit on your show. What's going on really with Lakewood and Jefferson County schools and those closed schools, and maybe other municipalities and the special deal that they're able to get potentially with the Jeffco schools. That's something notable given the homelessness and migrant crises that we have going on right now. We've also got Denver Public Schools. They just voted last night on a $5 million spend of their bond money on school safety infrastructure in their schools and school safety issues, and how DPS has been addressing school resource officers and the other mechanisms to keep kids in a safe learning environment is a story that I've been covering for years now. We'll be keeping tabs on that, more to come in regards to that subject. And then when it comes to school choice, there are, I would say, if you look at a school district like Jefferson County Schools, you increasingly are seeing an anti-charter school district. And I've done a little bit of reporting coverage on that. There's more to come in that regard. So a lot on education, but then when it comes to good, accountable government, you got all these politicians from Wanda James, a CU regent, to the likes of, and I know you guys talk about them all the time, Elizabeth Epps and Tim Hernandez in the legislature. There's a lot that needs to be exposed about these people, and that's among the long list of things to cover and dive deep into in my investigative columns for the Denver Gazette.
Let's talk a little bit about Tay Anderson. You and Tay have had a interesting relationship over the years.
Yeah, no Christmas cards, no Valentine's.
Right. Where does that land as you're wrapping up the Jimmy Sengenberger show? Did you and Tay bury the hatchet? Is he going to be a guest coming over, giving you a big hug tomorrow?
Unfortunately not. I didn't extend an invitation. I figured he'd probably throw it in the trash. He never responds to me for some reason, except that so one time at his last school board meeting, guys, it really got me in the feels. So I was sitting in the back right corner of the hall where they had their meeting, and Tay comes down from the dais and he goes to the podium because, of course, he wants to be among the people and his supporters could rally around him. And by the way, they did end with a dance party. But during his speech, he turns and he looks at me and he gives me a nice little shout out because I covered the fact that he went $13,000 over budget going on trips across the country to different conferences on taxpayer dime. He spent thousands of dollars on movie screenings for taxpayer dollars on movie screenings for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and The Little Mermaid, because that's the right way to spend your dollars as a school board member, right? Well, he looks back at me and he says something about, yes, Jimmy, across America. And I'm just sitting there like, I didn't expect everybody to give me the attention for a few moments, Tay. I didn't know you wanted to share that, but thank you for doing it. No,
that's nice.
I would say that I never set out to have any sort of thing happen in terms of Tay being ousted or not run for re-election or whatever it is. I was just curious about this guy. In fact, my first column on Tay Anderson was back in late 2020. And it was one of my first in the Denver Gazette altogether. And it was called The Curious Case of Tay Anderson. Because here's a guy on a school board who's in his early 20s at the time. And he'd have some big controversy come up. He accuses the police of pushing him at a protest or something happens. And then the media covers it. There's a splash, and that's it. There's nothing else. And that's what got me intrigued by Kay Anderson. And so I started to cover the story over and over as time passed, and there was so much material to work with. I was building up sources. And ultimately, I do think, and I've been told this by a lot of folks, that the coverage that I brought to bear did end up helping to give people a sense for what this guy really was about, that ultimately led to a 9% approval rating that got him to say, you know what, I'm not going to run for re-election, and later I'm not going to run for the House as I planned to.
Yeah,
right.
I loved your work. And one of the things that always got me was when he did the video about, hey, I've got a Target registry. Help me buy stuff for my kid. Like, what are you thinking? Seriously, just ridiculous.
Do you remember when go ahead, Jimmy.
I was just going to say, I had a column about that and about all the GoFundMes that he did and so forth. I think it was my second or third on him. And I had asked, and this is where I learned about language and how you got to be careful with using language. I had submitted a title for that column, a headline that was Kay Anderson's Grift Registry. And and that's what I learned from my editor. You know what? Let's be careful a little bit in terms of the language that you use. And actually, it was an important lesson for me early on in a journalistic career to understand that there are legal implications. There are things that can come from words like that that are often casually thrown around in media. And so it was good instructional for me, but also something that I found pretty entertaining.
Jimmy, you probably cover and investigate better than anybody else, definitely better than anyone at the Denver Post or 9 News or Channel 7. You dive into these corrupt politicians. I'm going to ask you this question. I'll give you a chance to think about it. Who do you think is just the biggest bozo elected into office in Colorado right now? Who is really messing it up? While you're thinking about it, guys, especially men out there, you've heard a lot about treating low testosterone and how it can improve your sleep, your workouts, and your low energy and more. But I want to talk to you about your love life, because low testosterone can have a significant impact on your desire for intimacy. And if you're in a relationship or wanting to be in a relationship, a low love drive can be a real problem. There is good news. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com and take the low T quiz on their website. It's a simple 10-question quiz with yes/no answers. It takes 2 minutes. Then schedule a consult with Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. A Colorado licensed medical provider will review your results with you and discuss your options. Cost of the appointment is only $99, which includes medical consult, T and PSA test. If you sign up for testosterone treatment the day of your appointment, your visit is free. Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic has served the Front Range of Colorado for nearly a decade and successfully treated tens of thousands of men. I got a chance to go over there and meet those guys. They run a class act operation. Call them today at 720-440-7900 or visit RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. That's RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. All right, Jimmy Sengenberger, who's the biggest bozo in leadership in Colorado right now?
I don't know how you can choose, Jeff. You asked me the most difficult question. You know, if Kay was still there at the school board in Denver, then I would have just answered Kay Anderson and gone on with his whole thing about it. But he's not anymore, because he clowned himself so much that he's now, who knows what the heck he's doing other than a nonprofit that he's got, so people can get a tax deduction now for giving him money. But that said, I don't know. I mean, if I had to choose, it would probably be right at this moment Elizabeth Epps or Tim Hernandez. Yeah. And you guys know full well why I would say that. The way in which they have acted already is beneath their offices, plain and simple. How Epps conducted herself in that special session late last year with Representative Ron Weinberg was the definition of disgraceful. And then when it comes to Tim Hernandez, I mean, this is a guy who's called for a forceful cultural revolution. The only instance that I could think of a forceful cultural revolution was this guy named Mao, and it resulted in tens of millions of his own people being brutally murdered. So I think we know where these two are headed, especially if somehow they end up in another term, or in the case of Tim Hernandez, a full term of office in 2026.
Oh, Jimmy, that is fantastic. I would agree with you. Hernandez and Epps. I love how that Elizabeth Epps has just decided, you know what? My job is now work from home. Who does that?
Right, exactly. That's where you know that you have failed so badly and you don't know how to dig yourself out of the hole. So you say, peace out. I'm just going on Zoom. It's COVID era for me, guys.
Good point.
Well, Jimmy, final show tomorrow, the Jimmy Sengenberger show, Saturday, 7 to 10 a.m., a whole host of amazing special guests. Plus, he and Peter Boyles did a special video that you can see on the 710 KNUS website under the Peter Boyles tab or on our YouTube channel as well. But Jimmy is going to continue to be doing investigation work and publishing columns with the Denver Gazette. So he will be regularly back on the show, I hope, as he continues to expose these bozos that are running the city of Denver and the state of Colorado. So, Jimmy, appreciate you. A lot of favorable text messages. Everybody tune in and celebrate Jimmy tomorrow, 7 to 10 a.m. on 710 KNUS. Thanks for being on the show, my friend.
Hey, guys, thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a great program, as we say so long.
Absolutely. 710 KNUS tomorrow, 7 to 10 a.m.
That's hard. I'm going to miss him so much. I'm going to really miss him. It's, again, it's almost as if where, like Pete and I were talking the other day, that we've almost seen him come of age. That you know that I've been around and I've known him long enough to see him really grow into it and worked with him behind the scenes and seen him behind the microphone. And he's always such a joy, such great energy, a really, really sharp mind, and just a good dude. I mean, just a really, really good guy. So,
well, like George, he's still going to be active in the community. So,
yes, he will.
Definitely not heading to Florida like some.
Nicely done.
You know,
good job there.
Hey, imagine effortlessly gliding open your cabinets and drawers to reveal neatly arranged shelves that showcase your belongings. With roll-em-out shelves, you'll easily access your pots, pans, and other essentials, eliminating chaos and increasing speed and functionality in your home. Roll-em-out shelves understands that every home storage needs are unique. Whether you're dealing with tight corners or expansive cabinets, your shelves will be custom built to maximize every inch of available space. Joyce and Brent Tolliver, the mom and son dynamic duo, leave satisfied customers wherever they go, and their all 5-star reviews confirm this. Here's what some overjoyed customers say. Joyce replied to my initial email and scheduled the estimate quickly. Installation was quick and clean. The shelves are very sturdy and made better than most I've seen. Very, very happy customer. And I've been putting this off for so long, thinking it was going to be so much more expensive. It wasn't. It was life-changing. Begin the affordable transformation in your home for less than $1,000 when Roll-em-Out Shelves efficiently organizes your space with sturdy Baltic birch shelves built right here in Colorado and guaranteed for life. Call for your free in-home estimate today, 303-475-9601. That's 303-475-9601, or rollthemoutshelves.com. Tell them Jeff sent you, rollthemoutshelves.com. All right, when we come back, guess what? The Denver Clerk and Recorder responding to the mayor's request to cut budgets in a major election year. That's a hard no.
Wait, you can do that?
Yeah, right. You can just tell your boss, we're not going to make that budget cut.
This is new.
Right. We'll cover this story and more. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call. 303-696-1971. This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.
You made it. It's Friday morning, 9:45 a.m. on Friday, February 16th. This is the Jeff and Bill Show. Hey, coming up after us, Charlie Kirk, followed by Dennis Prager, Sebastian Gorka, the Officer Tatum Show, Jay Senkulo, and Mark Levin, all to keep you company on this Friday, covering the hottest topics, watching all the news break. It looks like they got Fani Willis's father testifying today. My goodness,
Wow.
They're pouring through the whole family.
That'll be interesting. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure that he's got some sort of past connection with the Black Panthers.
Yeah,
so
that's
this could
what
be a
I- that's what I
really
heard.
interesting conversation. I'm super curious about that. And again, you also got to ask about, as Chris Murray outlined here, and our friend of the show, George Brauchler, the idea of how come we keep a lot of cash at the house? I would really, that'd be one of the things that, is this what your daughter did? How much did you, because I don't know. It's just me. I don't necessarily keep several $1,000s around the house in case I'm dating. Of course, my wife would frown on that a lot, but outside of that, before I get married. Yeah.
Especially if it was a bunch of $1 bills.
Exactly. Yes. And had glitter on them. Then there would be questions. So many questions.
Denver 7, Channel 7 reporting this. It's a hard no. Denver clerk and recorder responds to mayor's request to cut budget in mayor election year. I'm going to keep playing this forever. Here's Mike Johnston, very sad about the budget cuts he's going to need to make.
I want to thank every resident in this city who has showed up to cook a meal for someone that's arrived, who has welcomed someone into their home, who has offered them a job, who has said, we will help you find your way. You've done your part. The city will do our part. The federal government did not do their part.
So Mike Johnston upset last Friday, because he didn't get the money from the federal government to deal with the illegal immigration issue that they brought upon themselves. So he gets upset about it. He does this kind of tearful plea, and then he jumps on a plane to the Super Bowl with his son, which was probably illegally gifted to him. We're thinking, according to my non-lawyer analysis of your gifting rules in the city of Denver. But then the Denver clerk and recorder, who looks at the budget cut he's about to get and goes, we absolutely can't do that. And that was Paul Lopez's response to Mayor Mike Johnston's office requesting the clerk and recorder for the city and county of Denver cut $1 million from its budget. This is all part of a citywide effort the mayor is spearheading to deal with the influx of migrants after the failure of a bipartisan immigration bill in Congress. Budget cuts impact, quote, our ability to ensure a secure election, to ensure a transparent election, and to ensure access. You cannot run an election without the proper resources to be able to do so. The good thing is that I'm also an independent elected official. I don't work for the mayor. I don't have to answer to the mayor. The people of the city and county of Denver elected me to oversee the election process, to administer the election processes, and to make sure that we have the resources to do so. Lopez is in charge of the department that's responsible for elections, as well as marriage licenses, land transactions, and foreclosure processes. We need personnel. We have to have equipment that is maintained, that is secure. Our voting centers have to be secure. Our equipment has to be operational. We have to have cameras on all of our boxes. It's one heck of an operation, Lopez said, of the upcoming elections his office will oversee. In November, Lopez and the clerk and recorder's office will be tasked with overseeing 4 elections, according to Lopez, most notably the 2024 presidential election. So he's not going to take it.
You can say no.
You can say
really?
No. Yeah. I guess he's independent from the mayor.
This there are numerous radio stations I've been working for. I went through budget cuts, and I had no idea no was an option. Things might have gone very differently at times, but I love the statement from Lopez, because everybody that is an old school Living Color fan will understand the reference that Paul Lopez gave it 2 snaps and a twist. He did. He basically set it up and said, hey, I ain't taking none of your sass. I love the idea. He's like, no, big man. You can't tell me what to do. And we got to do this in order to function. Don't you remember how you got the office in the first place?
Yeah.
It only happened because this worked. This is great.
I don't think this works out that well for Mike Johnston.
No.
In the end, I think he could have an ethics complaint here for accepting the Super Bowl tickets. The kind of crocodile tears in light of an issue they created, right? Big banner, 2018, we heart immigrants. And like we mentioned earlier this week, it's like the teenage kid that throws the kegger, invites his buddies over, and the whole school shows up.
Someone in this conversation may be speaking from experience, but because their parents might be listening, we will not talk more about Jeff's party style.
They know. I was quite punished for that.
Excellent.
My punishment.
Someday we'll get to that.
They gave me one of two choices: military school or church, a week-long church camp.
Oh, that's
so
easy.
They just kind of sent me there. Yeah. There tends to be more girls at a church camp.
Exactly. Yes.
So if you're going to be choosing one, and I ended up becoming a pastor. So
nicely
not
done.
bad. So Lopez had sent a letter to Denver Mayor Mike Johnston and all 13 city council members last year, expressing his frustration over the cut to his budget proposal that would expand the elections office and enhance security. Lopez originally submitted a one-time $942,000 request in the budget for these improvements. He said those improvements were instead allocated $175,000, a decrease of more than 80%. Then the mayor comes back and says, you know what? We're going to have to cut even more. And so Lopez is not going to stand for it. It'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. But the city of Denver, look, people, this is who you elected. You made this choice. You put Mike Johnston in, and you're going to have to deal with all the consequences of it. We've got a call coming in from Nick. Nick, before I get to you, let me tell you a little bit about Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Your home is a significant asset, and choosing the right team to help you sell it can be the difference in thousands of dollars in your pocket. I highly recommend Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team, the realtors I trust. Empower Home team provides exceptional service, invaluable advice, and employs unique systems to maximize the money you can get for your home. Getting an offer above your home's asking price is great, but you're leaving money on the table by not working with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Gay and her experts get their clients an average of $30,000 more. Could you use an extra $30,000? That's precisely why you need Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Their exclusive database is filled with pre-screened buyers ready to make a purchase. Take the stress and hassle out of selling your home while getting the best price. Here's an unbeatable offer. Gay Ribble and Empower Home team will sell your house for 100% of the asking price, or Gay will pay you the difference. It's an offer you simply cannot refuse. Get 100% of your asking price guaranteed with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team. Reach out to my friends and realtors, Gay Ribble and Empower Home team today. Call 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Let's go to Nick, Denver. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Morning.
Thanks for taking my call, and I'm sorry that Jimmy Sengenberger he's not leaving. He's just doing something else, and I hope he stays in the area where he's shown a lot of expertise, like exposing corrupt politicians.
That's right.
So
us too.
Just a quick general comment about the state of affairs in this city and the state. As you well know, the Democrats control everything, and the one thing that the left never has had is the ability for self-reflection, looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, you know something, there's something wrong with my ideas. It's always somebody else's fault.
Yep.
And what will happen, like it's happening all over the country, things have to really get bad, really, really bad, before people start waking up.
Now, Nick, got a question for you. So we need to increase the Republican representation in our government. If you were given the magic wand, you were allowed to foment the strategy. What is the message you feel can most resonate with Colorado and Denver voters to expose the silliness that is going on with the liberals in charge? What's your message?
The message is, at the end of the day, politics is supposedly about solving problems and making your life easier. Is your life any easier? Are the problems going away? Ooh. And the answer to that is no. Everything's going from, well, I can't say the word over the.
Yeah, we have to cut you off. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to cut me off. But things are just not getting any better. They're getting worse. And the reason is you have the same old tired answers to the same old tired questions.
Right. The solution seems to be just elect a different Democrat.
Nick coming and spiking the football at the end of the show. My man. That was fantastic. High five.
That was
back,
Reagan-esque.
Wow.
Right? Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
So sharp, so pointed. Yep. Exactly the issue. And he identifies it and he makes it about you, makes it emotional, makes the connection. I got nothing, man. That was fantastic. Man.
Great way to wrap up the show. You know, coming up next is Charlie Kirk. You're definitely going to want to stick around for Charlie. He's got brilliant insight, especially from the next generation, how young conservatives are coming up. They're definitely different. Like we saw it with the Ukraine vote. Basically, any Republican under 50 was against the Ukraine vote, and any Republican over 50 wasn't supportive of it. So it's just times are changing. So stick around for Charlie, and then Dennis, Sebastian, Officer Tatum, Jay Sekulow, and Mark Levin. Man, the tip of the spear is with 710 KNUS for reclaiming, you know, what makes America great.
And I hear they're going to make us come back Monday, I guess.
We're still rocking and rolling.
All right.
Monday. Have a great weekend, Bill.
Oh, you too. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your farm work, and I know the snow makes it so much easier. I tease.
We'll have fun. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
News Talk 710 KNUS.